Could it be? Me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to Free Agency Frenzy. The tampering period has begun in the National Football League, and your man Louie T is here to keep you abreast of every single move made. And I've got my device out in front of me. I've also got another computer in front of me to peruse your chat discussions. So I want to stay on top of what's going on and be in real time as these deals are going down at a very, very rapid rate. And as we continue to get through the night, we'll hear more and more deals leading up until the beginning of the new league year tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So for all intents and purposes, free agency has begun, and the tampering period has pretty much served as a landing destination, or a landing board, if you will, a springboard into free agency. A lot of these players and agents have already made contact. They've agreed to terms. Now, nothing is etched in stone. Just because a team and a player have agreed to terms, nothing has been signed. Things can change. Failed physical could change everything in the case of an Allen Robinson or Sam Bradford. Or Bradford going to the Arizona Cardinals. He fails the physical. That deal is null and void. A same can be said for Allen Robinson. They've got to inspect his surgery with the ACL to make sure that he is okay. But again, most of these deals are going to go down. You've got all of these different insiders doing their due diligence to figure out what's going on. And so there is a lot to discuss today. And we'll be live again tomorrow for free agency. Everything will be official then. We'll have more deals to discuss. As we know, it moves very rapidly in the first week. Things start to slow down as you get to the second week. And then as we get into the third week, we start moving away from free agency and more closer towards the draft. So we know a lot of money goes flying out the door during the first week of free agency. So we'll talk about all of those things as we get settled in tonight. Want to get you guys' opinion on what you've seen throughout the day. I know a lot of you are fans of some of these teams that have made some shrewd moves, or maybe some questionable decisions, maybe overspent for a player or two. That's what happens generally in the first week of free agency. Teams tend to overspend. It's a money grab, and with the salary cap going up, you've got a lot more money to spend. Teams looking to improve. A lot of money goes in this first week. And so maybe a guy that you don't expect to get as much money, like a Samuel Watkins, like a Ryan Grant, are going to make some money if you pay them in the first week of free agency. So we will definitely be talking about that tonight. So I want to get to your comments and want to see how you guys feel. So I'm going to jump right into the comment section. Buffalo pregame says, what's wrong with my Bills? All the teams that absolutely need QBs moved to the top 6 free agents except Buffalo. I think Buffalo is thinking big picture, my man. I don't think they want any of the free agents. Remember, they were rumored to be hot on the trail of Sam Bradford, and they ultimately decided not to pull the trigger on him as he ended up in Arizona. But again, with the move and the trade of Cordy Glenn to Cincinnati to move up to 12, there's still reports that the Bills are trying to get as high as 5. And with Denver making the move for Case Keenum, maybe they're out of the quarterback business. I wouldn't be too sure. We still don't know the absolute details of that deal for Case Keenum. It could be like Teddy Bridgewater signing, like Sam Bradford is signing in Arizona, like Teddy Bridgewater is signing in New York, a 1-year deal. We don't know. The rest of the Vikings quarterbacks have taken 1-year deals or going to take 1-year deals. Remember, none of these are final yet. None of these deals can be commenced until tomorrow. But we don't know what the situation is. In any event, I think Buffalo is hell-bent on getting a quarterback in the draft. And so whether they've got to package up some picks to do so, or they stand pat at 12 and just wait to see if someone drops, We'll see what happens, but it seems like the Bills are hell-bent on moving up. They've already done it once. They've still got draft capital. They may look to move up yet again in this draft to get the quarterback of their choice. Enrique Valencia says, I'm already sick of Ballard. I want this Mr. Crab out of my team. Penny pinching when we have nearly $80 million in cap space and haven't re-signed anyone. Look, you can't run every GM out of town. You wanted the last GM gone. We all wanted him gone. We all thought that he was a terrible GM. Now he's gone. And so now you've got Chris Ballard in there. You can't be complaining yet. You have to see what this man is going to do. Obviously, I hear your frustrations. A lot of money to spend. Haven't spent any of it yet. Just because you haven't thrown away money recklessly like everyone else has on the first day or two of free agency doesn't mean he's not going to spend. There are tons of free agents still out there, still available on the market. Don't panic. Your money will be spent in some way, shape, or form. Relax. You'll see what happens. Allow the market to settle, and maybe he'll start spending some money then. Relax. Mazer_12 says, what do you think of Aaron Colvin if fully signed with the Texans? I love the move. I'm jealous because I wanted my Redskins to go out and get Aaron Colvin. And, no one knows what players do more so than teams in the division. Okay, you see these players 2 times a year for however many years they've been playing with the opposition. And so you know what these guys can do intimately. He's, to me, one of the best, if not the best slot corner in all of football. I was really looking forward to seeing if the Redskins could at least procure a interview with him and see if we could get him to sign on the dotted line in D.C. But again, I think he's going to cost. Obviously, we know it's a 4-year deal. I'm anxious to see the details of that deal to see just how much he was able to command on the free agent market. But nonetheless, he's an extremely talented football player. It seems like all of these good corners in the AFC South stay in the South and just switch teams. And Aaron Colvin looks to be continuing that trend, moving on from Jacksonville to Houston. But I love the move for the Texans. And I think this is one of the better young up-and-coming corners. If you check my list of top 23 free agents, Aaron Colvin is pretty high on that list of guys that I thought were top free agents in this free agency class. Jeff P. says, what up, Lou? I feel like losing Breland for so cheap. Looks like the Fab Moreau show. I knew Bree was gone. We knew Bree was gone. I didn't think he was going to be back. I just didn't expect him to be as cheap as he was. Again, I think he was looking forward to going back home. He had sent out a tweet about 2 months ago that said something to the effect of the grass isn't always greener on the other side. I thought he was referencing wanting to stay with the Redskins, but I think what he was ultimately talking about was wanting to go home. Grass wasn't always greener on the other side, meaning going away from home. There's no place like home, and he's getting a chance to go as close as he's going to get on an NFL roster to home being South Carolina. Remember, he went to Clemson. So I think that deal reflects a guy just looking to try to get back home, and that was the perfect landing spot for him. And they could use a corner of his ilk, and I think he's going to immediately join their team and be a #1 corner. So I think that's a really good get for the Carolina Panthers. Disappointed that he's not a Redskin, but again, I kind of prepared myself mentally for what was to come. The big thing is Redskins have talent at the cornerback position. I'm looking forward, like you said, to see what Fab Moreau, what Quentin Dunbar, what Joshua Halsey, what some of these other guys can do now that Bashaud Breeland is definitely out in D.C. As we keep on going and continue down the list. Buffalo pregame says, or we already read that. Buffalo pregame says, do you think the Bills signed A.J. McCarron? Last need team and best QB available. I would rather take a risk on McCarron than take an old veteran backup. I believe that is to be the case. This game of musical chairs, we talked about it. Who was going to end up where and what team was going to end up without a quarterback. So the Bills have 2 options. You can either take A.J. McCarron or you could trade for Nicholas Foles. Those are really your 2 options at this point if you're looking for an established quarterback in this league with some pedigree. Obviously, McCarron is not established, but he's young and he has a ceiling. We don't know how high it is, but nonetheless, we think that he can play in this league and be a bona fide starter if given the opportunity. So I think those are your two options if you're looking to go with a quarterback prior to the draft. Again, you're going to have to give something up if you want Nicholas Foles. In the case of McCarron, you just got to sign him. We'll see what happens. I think, again, the Bills are dead set on attacking the quarterback position through the draft. Now, they'll need a veteran backup most likely unless they believe in Nathan Peterman. Then they're going to need a veteran backup just in case they need someone to start the season off and don't want to throw their rookie into the fire again. I like you think that a guy like McCarron is a low-risk proposition. You see how much it's going to take to get him to sign, and then you can still draft a quarterback and still have a chance for him to sit, learn a little bit, and then maybe come in towards the end of the season or maybe start the season if he wins the job outright. But in any event, we'll see what the Bills decide to do. I know a lot of Bills fans are a little anxious because you got to move quick on these quarterbacks. You knew Kirk was going to go to Minnesota. We did not know where Case Keenum was going to end up. He started these dominoes falling as he landed in Denver. Then you saw Bradford off the board to Arizona. Now we've seen Bridgewater link up with the Jets. So now all of the options are starting to wane. And so now you try to figure out where do we fall in line with all of these QBs that were out on the market. Drew Brees obviously went back to New Orleans. So we'll see what happens with the Buffalo Bills for sure. Enrique Valencia says, we have two receivers on our squad. We don't have a left guard or right guard. Our defense is a mess, and Ballard isn't even worried about it. I hate having Ted Thompson version 2. Look, like I said earlier, you got to relax. You got to give it time. Just because you don't spend money in day one of free agency, and we haven't even hit day one. That's how crazy it is now. We're talking about free agency the day before free agency because this tampering period has taken on a life of its own. Relax. We're not even into true free agency yet. It hasn't even started yet. And you're already crucifying your general manager. Relax. Give him a chance. It's not all about when you spend. It's how you spend and who you spend your money on. So we'll see what happens in Indianapolis. Pamil Production says, Danny Woodhead, to me, is the definition of a Patriot back. And he may have a chance to go back to New England. He was released by the Baltimore Ravens today. We'll see where he ends up. He's going to find work. His problem isn't production, it's health. If he can stay healthy, he's a productive back in this league. If he cannot stay healthy, then you'll see what happened to him in Baltimore happened to him yet again. Gregory Lightbody says, do you think there is a chance the Redskins get Ndamukong Suh or Dontari Poe? I do not see the Redskins signing Ndamukong Suh. I don't think he fits what they're doing defensively in terms of culture. I think that's another reason why Muhammad Wilkerson wasn't signed in Washington is because I heard rumors of this guy being a malcontent in the locker room, not getting along with head coach Todd Bowles, showing up late to meetings. He was a guy that was a huge red flag for a lot of teams. He's going to a place where they have, and again, if you're going to sign and take a risk on a free agent or a guy that has some baggage, you better have a locker room that is insulated and able to take on that kind of a personality. There are only a handful of teams that can do that and still win. Green Bay, New England, Pittsburgh, those are the locker rooms where you can have a malcontent in the locker room and still win. But if you're not a good enough football team, you can't have those types of players in your locker room or it will disrupt whatever chemistry you do have. And so a guy like Muhammad Wilkerson wasn't signed by the Redskins. I feel like Ndamukong Suh may be the same type of guy. I heard he's going to be released because they're trying to change the culture in Miami. Remember, Jarvis Landry out because of a culture change. Remember, Ajay Ajayi out in Miami because of a culture change. Ndamukong Suh looks like he's going to succumb to the same fate in Miami. But Dontari Poe, on the other hand, is a guy that I think the Redskins are very interested in. Again, it will come down to dollars and cents. If it doesn't make sense for Bruce Allen from a dollar standpoint, he will not pull the trigger as we have seen in past seasons. SOL's Nation says Redskins needed to get Wilkerson or Suh. Sucks that BRIO is gone too. Wilkerson, it would have been nice. I didn't realize that there was as much baggage with Wilkerson. Suh, I just don't see that happening. But I knew BRIO was going to be gone, so that one didn't hit me that hard. What surprised me with BRIO was the amount of money that he signed in Carolina for. That I did not see coming. Rodney Ray says, can you remind NFL fans that there are 3 parts of the offseason to get players and should calm down if you didn't see too many moves? Free agency, draft, post-draft. Exactly my point, Rodney. And the big picture, too, if you're going micro and macro, the macro picture is we haven't even gotten into official free agency yet. For example, my man Enrique talking about the Colts and how he's frustrated with them. We haven't even officially started free agency yet. If you're going macro, that was your micro approach. That free agency hasn't even officially started. You want to allow some of these big money free agents to kind of clear and let the market settle, and then you go in and you get your bargains. But if you're going micro approach or macro approach, big picture, like Rodney said, you've got free agency, then you've got draft, and then you've got post-draft because you're going to get some veteran cuts, some June 1 post cuts, and you're going to get some guys that after the draft happens, teams realize, okay, I had a guy fall in my lap I didn't expect. Now I can cut bait with this veteran, and boom, there's a guy that comes free and available. And every year we see some guys end up off of rosters that have a future in this league that teams will have the ability to sign. So don't go overboard if your team did not be aggressive early on in the tampering period. Don't go overboard. There's plenty of offseason left to improve your roster, and free agency isn't the only means to do so. Obviously, the draft is probably your best resource to better your football team. Young, cheap options that can help you win. So relax if you are out there and your team hasn't done much quite yet. Craig Smith says, coupon god Tom Telesco sitting back waiting on the market to settle so he can pull another Casey Hayward out of the hat. And they just re-signed Casey Hayward a few days ago. And that's how you do it if you're looking for a deal. Reggie McKenzie is the same way in Oakland. I know a lot of Raiders fans are upset. They wanted a chance at Trumaine Johnson. They wanted a chance at Malcolm Butler. They wanted a chance at Dion Lewis. Well, if you're going to get those kinds of names in free agency, you got to act fast. If you're looking for big names, you got to do it quickly because the market is going to dry up at those positions, especially with the bigger names. Now, if you're looking for some coupon deals, as my man Craig Smith said, or as I like to say, the pink tag deals, those clearance items at the back of the store, you've got to wait until the market starts to dry up a bit. In the case of the Raiders, you get a Cordero Patterson on that clearance rack later on in free agency. You're going to have to wait for those types of items to clear. And so we'll see, because there's still a number of guys out there. And again, you're going to see a lot more names come off the board tomorrow and even into Thursday. And then things will start to settle. And then you start to see your bargains come towards next week. And that's when you'll start to see some of these cheaper GMs who like to penny pinch come out and start to spend. Brandon Sullivan says, hope Paul helps you guys out. From watching him in Seattle, you guys paid a little too much. My Seahawks just watching everybody like normal. So with P. Rich, we needed speed. We paid for speed. It's the same, pretty much the same exact deal we gave Pierre Garçon. Give or take a couple mil. I think Pierre's was like 42 million or something like that, 41, something like that. In any event, it's the same deal, 8 million per. I don't think we overpaid. We'll find out together because, again, we don't really know what Paul Richardson is in this league. We know that the guy can run. We know he can catch the football. We don't know what kind of route runner he is because in Seattle, a lot of plays were off schedule. So there's a lot to find out about Paul Richardson. One thing's for sure. I watched Samuel Watkins get 48 million? Yeah. So if my math serves me correct, that's 16 per. I watched Allen Robinson coming off of an ACL sign a deal for 42, which is 14 per. So to pay Paul Richardson, again, he hasn't put up the numbers that those two guys have put up in this league. I get that. Granted, I understand. Still, 8 million for a guy that I think has the upside of those guys that I just mentioned. I feel good about that. So we'll see what happens. Gregory Lightbody says, how do we replace Breland in the secondary? Well, they have Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie in the building. I don't love that, but I don't hate it. We can do a lot worse than him. I think we can do a little bit better if you want to be frank. But in any event, there's still the draft. There's still free agency. We'll see. If the Redskins sign Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie, then you don't really have to be over-aggressive in the draft. But I still want a younger guy. And again, this is the way they're going to replace BRIO. They looked at BRIO as a starting cornerback. They look at Fabian Moreau as a starting cornerback as well. One that they thought had first-round potential. A lot of people around the league thought he was a first-round pick, but because of the injury of the torn pec at his pro day, he fell down the draft board, and the Redskins got a steal in their mind in the third round with Fabian Moreau. So they think he's a first-round talent. They think he's got the ability to start out wide. They also like Joshua Halsey, a guy that I told you I liked last year as a seventh-round pick out of Auburn. So we're going to be just fine at the cornerback position. Remember, we still got Josh Norman. So Quinn Dunbar signed a 3-year deal. So they've got Quinn Dunbar, Fabian Moreau, Josh Norman as all boundary corners, with Fab Moreau as a guy that can kick inside. Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie, if signed, can also play inside in the slot as well. So I think the Redskins are going to be just fine at the cornerback position, minus Bashaud Breeland. Matthew Lynch says, Packers stole Mo Wilk. Damn, he would have been nice for us. I was a little disappointed, but again, I heard some of the rumblings and grumblings about Mo Wilkerson and some of his in the locker room shenanigans, late for meetings, like I said earlier, not getting along with the head coach, defiant. Those are things you don't want in your locker room. And again, our locker room isn't strong enough to handle a personality like that. I wouldn't have wanted him in the locker room if he wasn't going to behave himself better than he did with the Jets. But we do need to address the defensive tackle position, whether that's Don Terry Poe or some other player out there. I'd like to see the Redskins be a little aggressive and attack that position and still sign Zach Brown back. That would be the two things right now on my radar if you're a Redskins fan after knocking down receiver with Paul Richardson. Gregory Lightbody says, can we sign a guy like Nigel Bradham if Zach Brown leaves? Absolutely. Nigel Bradham actually might be an upgrade over Zach Brown from a pass defense perspective. Now, keep in mind that Zach Brown is faster than Nigel Bradham and maybe a little bit better than him in the run game. But if you're talking about from a pass game perspective, Nigel Bradham is light years ahead of Zach Brown. That's part of the reason the Redskins have hesitation and pause in re-signing Zach Brown. They have a number in mind what they think he's worth. He has a number in mind of what he thinks he's worth. And I'm going to tell you right now, the deal that Kansas City gave out to Anthony Hitchens, which we don't know the particulars of, but if reporting is correct and accurate, he's getting a deal for $9 million per. Let's say it's a 4-year deal for $9 million. You're talking $36 million. That's right in the wheelhouse of what Zach Brown is looking for. And I don't think the Redskins are looking to pay him that. I think they're thinking more along the lines of 7. He's thinking more along the lines of 9. Maybe they can meet in between at 8, but I can tell you this much. The Redskins aren't looking to pay him 9 or 10 per year, and Zach Brown's looking for 9 or 10. So that's why I don't think he's going to be back in D.C. But the thing is, will somebody else pay him that money? If somebody else will, then he's gone. If no one else will pay him that kind of money, then maybe he'll decide to come back because, remember, he's from the DMV area, so maybe he'll decide. But if he feels disrespected, he may be hurt and decide to go elsewhere despite the Redskins offering similar money to the team that he decides to sign with. We'll see what happens with that situation. Craig Smith says, of all people, did you ever imagine Cousins would be the guy to get a fully guaranteed contract? No, absolutely not. I think Kirk Cousins is a really good football player, a damn good quarterback, and he's going to make the Minnesota Vikings a true contender in the NFC, no doubt about it. Okay, let's get that out of the way. I feel like Kirk Cousins has the potential to get even better as a quarterback. I do not think he's hit his apex yet. Remember, you're talking about a guy with 3 years of starting experience, and he's thrown for 4,000 yards in each and every single one of those seasons, almost threw for 5,000 in 2016. The guy single-handedly carried this team in 2 seasons in 15 and 16, and if not for a porous defense and a field goal kicking situation that wasn't ideal in 2016, the Redskins would have made the postseason 2 out of those 3 years. And you could argue with a better defense, and the injuries not being what they were in 2017, they may have made the playoffs 3 straight years. In any event, none of that matters. He's in Minnesota. No, I didn't think he would be the first player, quarterback, anything to be fully guaranteed in terms of a contract, a multi-year contract. But that's how it goes. He was able to put himself in a position. Now, the Redskins first put him in a position where he would have leverage. Then he decided, you know what? Not going to sign with you guys. Going to go ahead, test free agency. And he's put himself in a position where he has forwarded the players' situation with this deal, because now other players have a platform to which they can reference. Now, look, he got an all guaranteed, fully guaranteed deal. This is what I want for my client. And you're going to see agents looking to try to finagle this. And he's given leverage to some of the players. We'll see what they're able to do with it. That next CBA is going to be huge. I think the players are really going to look for more guaranteed money. I'm going to be interested to see how that goes. Keep it moving. K. Francis says, do you feel the Panthers made the right decision to move on from Andrew Norwell and Star Lotulelei? And do you think that we have Breeland, now that we have Breeland, we will not be selecting a corner round 1? So let's knock these comments down one by one. So first things first. Yes, you were I thought the Panthers should have been a little bit more aggressive in trying to sign Andrew Norwell. Now, granted, you saw how much he went off the market for. All right. Were you going to be willing to pay him that? Probably not. I'm pretty sure you weren't. Now, you don't have Dave Gettleman as your GM anymore. He's definitely a penny pincher. But I don't know if the situation in Carolina from a financial standpoint would have allowed you to, sign Andrew Norwell to the deal he got in Jacksonville, which was the highest paid deal for an offensive guard in league history. So I just don't know if the Panthers were going to be able to fork over that kind of cash. And in their mind, they did it once, they can do it again. He was undrafted. They feel like they can find a guy and plug him. As far as Star is concerned, you did the right thing there, because you drafted, you prepared yourself for this. You know, Vernon Butler and all of the draft picks spent on the defensive tackle position was because of this day. It was coming. You knew it was coming. And so you wanted to prepare yourself for the event that he had to move on. You have K'Wan Short. You have Vernon Butler. You feel good about that position. And so Star was the guy that was the odd man out. Don't have a problem with you guys allowing him to walk. And as far as the cornerback position is concerned, now with Bashaud Breeland in the mix, it does give you the flexibility. Look, it's still best player available, and if that's a corner, you take it from. But it does give you the flexibility to not feel forced to take a corner at the back end of the first round. Now you can look at, all right, if a pass rusher falls to us, all right, and I think the Panthers are somewhere in that 22 to 24 range. If a pass rusher falls to us, we'll take him. If a safety we like, Kirk Coleman, gone. If a safety falls to us that we like, take him. Okay, you have options on this football team. If a receiver that we like, don't think Torrey Smith solves your receiver problem. If a receiver you like is sitting there, you take him. I like DJ Moore out of Maryland. That guy would fit your offense to a T. It gives you the flexibility now to not have to force a pick, maybe chasing a need. I think this signing of Bashaud Breeland gives you the flexibility you need and that you want going into the NFL draft in the first round. So, yes, I do think that's a good move for the Panthers. All right, let's get back up. And we go to SOL's Nation. He says, do you think the Redskins can pull a Rogers Cromartie or Deshaun Shedd? I think Rogers Cromartie is the most likely of the two. Again, neither one of those guys moved the needle for me. DRC is a proven guy in this league. When healthy, he's good, but he was a malcontent in that Giants locker room. Remember, he ended up getting suspended because of his antics in the locker room. So we just need to make sure his head is on straight. How much good football does he have left? And if we decide that he checks out physically and is looking to come and help the team win, Rogers Cromartie, DRC wouldn't be that bad of an addition to the football team. Eric Spencer says, as a Vikings fan, I think the Cousins deal was good. It's only 3 years plus Bradford, and all QBs got 20 mil. If they felt they can win it all, then they had to do it. I don't have a problem with Kirk Cousins getting a fully guaranteed contract. You had to do what you had to do to secure his services. And like you said, this team feels like they're in win now mode. They've got everything you're looking for. You're going to get a healthy Dalvin Cook back at the running back position. I think you're going to add to that position via the draft, because you're probably going to lose the secret weapon, Jerick McKinnon, in free agency. But you look at that football team, you've got talent everywhere, and it's a young football team, and you're bringing a quarterback that's heading into the prime of his career. Like you said, it's only a 3-year deal, and so we'll see what happens. If you don't like his performance, you can get out of the deal after 3 years and move forward from there. So I love the deal for the Vikings as well, and I think it's going to give them a chance to be a contender for the next 3 years as long as Kirk Cousins is there. Matthew123 says, are you surprised some of our guys are getting paid so much? We might have 4 or 5 comp picks with the guys getting paid so much. Did not expect Grant to make $7.25 million at all. Me neither. And it was funny because I was listening to a couple of Redskins fans talk about Ryan Grant, and the question was, why haven't we re-signed Ryan Grant? And one of the Redskins fans said, well, it's not like he got a market anyway, so he's not going anywhere. He'll be there. And I'm like, I don't know about that. I didn't expect him to be a first-day guy. So that was number one. Number two, I didn't expect him to command as much money as he did from the Ravens. Someone said we overspent for Paul Richardson. Ryan Grant is a glue guy. He's the type of player you want on your roster. Puts his head down, gets the job done, will block in the run game. He does everything good, nothing great. Doesn't have elite speed, but runs good routes, catches the football. But he's nothing special. But yet, he got a 4-year, like $29 million deal. So, at the end of the day, what one man's trash is another man's treasure. I've been told that in the past, and free agency, I think, gives you the best look at that idiom, and I think that's the way the Ravens viewed Ryan Grant. Oh, you don't want him? We'll take him. When you don't have anything, remember, the Ravens don't have anything at receiver. When you have nothing, you'll take someone else's trash, perceived trash, because you're looking to improve your team. So he'll give them something that they didn't have last year, a reliable target at the receiver position. Just don't look at him as a game changer if you're a Ravens fan. Cloud says, wanted Colvin too, but when we heard we would re-sign Patrick Robinson, that went out the door. Looks like we're trying to go back to back. Look, Patrick Robinson played well for you last year. If it's not broken, don't fix it. He's going to be a lot cheaper than Aaron Colvin is going to be. I'm anxious to see how much Colvin got in Houston, because I'm a huge Aaron Colvin fan. Think he's one of the better slots in the league. And so he's a lot younger than Patrick Robinson, who's 30. But again, Robinson balled for you last year. Going to be a lot cheaper. And with the way the Eagles are shuffling and making moves, there's not a lot of money to be had out there for them to be throwing at a free agent like Colvin. So re-sign your own, keep it nice, neat, and cheap, and keep it moving. And that's what the Eagles are looking to do. Blackbird Blitz says, okay, yeah, you guys, again, if you're new to the channel, subscribe first and foremost. And if you want your comment to be read, use the hashtag LouieTLive to have it read on the air as we keep it going and read some more comments. And next, I got my man Craig Smith. Says, mark my words, Lou, either Daquan Jones or Bo Allen will be a Los Angeles Charger within a week, and for the low, hashtag coupon god Tommy T. I think Daquan Jones is going to be a Los Angeles Charger when it's all said and done. Coupon god Tommy T. Jeff P says, have you heard anything on Big Dontari Poe or Sheldon Richardson? I'm glad Mo chose the Packers, LOL. I don't trust him after the Jets cut him like that. Seems like a lot of teams around the league felt like Mo Wilkerson had a lot of red flags. Sheldon Richardson is going to come with his own set of red flags as well. Haven't heard anything about him being a negative, having a negative effect on the Seattle Seahawks locker room. But again, a lot goes on out in Seattle. I just kind of stay out of that. Not my business, keeping my nose out of their business. But as far as those two are concerned, Sheldon Richardson, obviously the more talented of the two because he can play all three downs. But if you're looking for a bona fide run-stuffing defensive lineman that can collapse the pocket on third downs, if you want to leave him on the field in passing situations, Dontari Poe does fit that bill as well. So either one of those guys would be welcome additions in DC. But if you're looking for a true nose, I think Poe would be that guy for the Redskins. We'll see what happens. SOL Nation says, how many former Redskins do you think will make the Pro Bowl next year? I don't know. Hard to say. I mean, we'll see. Kirk could make it. Bashad Breeland could make it. You know, Trent Murphy hasn't re-signed. That's a little scary. I think Trent might be heading elsewhere, man. And just like we saw with Ryan Grant, other people got their eyes on your stuff, man. You think your stuff is safe, but other people are eyeballing your stuff, man. And if you don't lock your stuff up, if you don't put your merchandise in the cart, all right, and keep it away from other shoppers, people will come and pick your stuff up. So Trent Murphy is out there. We just, again, I think as Redskins fans, we assume, oh, Ryan Grant, he'll be there if we want him. Trent Murphy, he'll be there if we want him. Oh, yeah? Okay. Keep effing around, and both of those dudes are going to be gone. Grant's already gone. We'll see. And we never appreciated Ryan Grant, so let's not act as if Redskins fans are all up in arms. I think a lot of us are more surprised more than anything else than upset that he got a deal. I'm happy for Ryan Grant. Go make your money, but, man, go get your bread. I just didn't see it happening this early and for that much, but I really wanted Trent Murphy back, especially if we don't go out and make a move. I really would like to get ex-Los Angeles Chargers outside linebacker, Tauchu. That's a guy that I like coming out of college, out of Georgia Tech. And I would love to see the Redskins go after him, but I just don't see them having that same frame of mind as I do about Tauchu. Okay, but in any event, keep it moving. Tristan and L. Salt says, when Keenum committed to Denver, I thought the Vikings must have something in place with Cousins. But if we missed on him, I thought we would be dead in the water. I don't like any other option. Well, you're good because, and look, the Kirk Cousins thing was done at the combine. We heard rumors about, the Jets even said, hey, we done with him because he's going to Minnesota. You had nothing to worry about with that situation. Nothing. Zach Cole says, what are your thoughts on the Titans' moves? I love the Dion Lewis move. You needed a back that could catch it out of the backfield. You've got a hammer, okay? You've got a hammer. You needed a nail. And so now you've got a guy that can catch it, be a scat back, change of pace. You got the quintessential 1-2 punch in Derrick Henry and Dion Lewis now. And so I love that situation in the backfield. As far as Malcolm Butler is concerned, I think we saw last year that your cornerback situation needed to be addressed. I think the jury's still out on your first-round pick last year out of USC. I still think he's got a lot to learn about the cornerback position, but he grew a lot as a corner. And so if he's as good as you think he's going to be in Adoree Jackson, and now you add in Malcolm Butler, I love your safety that you drafted a couple of years ago out of Middle Tennessee that made the Pro Bowl last year. That secondary is starting to round into shape. And I think adding in the pieces that you added today, and you still got a ton of cap space, I think the Titans made some really good moves today. And I want to see what they're going to continue to do. Obviously, you want to see if the Titans can add something up front on the defensive line. But we'll see what they decide to do. But I think the first two moves that they made in getting Malcolm Butler and getting Dion Lewis, I thought those were big moves for the Tennessee Titans. It helps bolster their defense and their offense. So those are two big areas of need. They addressed them on the opening day. They're going to address them, I should say, on the opening day of free agency. And we'll see what they decide to do moving forward. But I like the moves thus far for the Titans. Absolutely. I want to see how much money Dion Lewis commands, though, because he's a guy with an injury history. So you want to be a little cautious on how much you give him, and you want it to be more incentive-based just to make sure you cover your bases in case he gets injured again. Eric Villa says, you think the Texans should sign E.J. Gaines? If E.J. Gaines is the best you can do in free agency, you might as well just wait for the draft. The Texans already signed a cornerback. Their cornerback position is getting up there in age. I think Kareem Jackson still has some good football left in him, but your other corner, Jonathan Joseph, he's really getting long in the tooth. I still don't really know what Johnson is at the cornerback position, whether it's injuries or I don't know what he is yet. I still need to see more from him. So, adding in Aaron Colvin definitely helps. Your slot got a ton better today with the signing of Aaron Colvin. We'll see what they decide to do. But E.J. Gaines, if that's the best you can do, you probably need to just wait for the draft. Clean Senpai says, seeing all the money these receivers are getting, the Torrey Smith trade for my Panthers looking better and better. Again, Torrey Smith is a third option at best on a good football team. You looked at him last year for Philadelphia. Option 1 was Zach Ertz. Option 2 was Alshon Jeffrey. Option 3, well, you could argue was Nelson Aguilar, and then came Torrey Smith as a fourth option in Philadelphia. So keep in mind, if you're looking for Torrey Smith to be more than a deep threat and a guy that occasionally can move the sticks, but more importantly, if you're looking for him to be anything more than a deep threat, you're barking up the wrong tree. If you're expecting big numbers from Torrey Smith, that ship has sailed. He's not that guy anymore. So if you're happy about Torrey Smith because you feel good about the rest of your receivers, then good for you. But if you're looking for Torrey Smith to come in and be a legit bona fide number 2 receiver in Carolina, you got another thing coming. So you better hope Curtis Samuel is what you thought he was when you drafted him. You better hope that you have a legit number 1 in Devin Funchess. You better hope some of those other guys on that roster start to pan out. You better hope that the Panthers see it the way I see it and are looking to spend maybe that first round pick on DJ Moore so that you have a legit 1-2 punch, and then Torrey Smith can be a third option, a secondary option to help kind of fill in the gaps in Carolina and bring back the deep ball that you were missing when Ted Ginn Jr. vacated your football team. Mexican says, did Carolina get a good deal with Breland? You did. You got a hell of a deal. You got a steal. You got a hometown discount is what you got. I think he was homesick and he wanted to come home. Because the deal, you were supposed to have to spend at least 10 per. To get him, that should have been a 3-year, $30 million deal. And you got him for 24. And 11 of it guaranteed. You got a steal. And he's a hell of a football player. And as long as you ask him to play press man coverage or press at the line of scrimmage, if you're asking him to play cover, which we know the Panthers love to play cover 3, if you're asking him to play off and soft, you're not getting a good corner. You're not getting a guy that was a really good corner in 2017 and a stud in 2015. Okay? You're getting the guy that was unsure of himself and at times a really, really inconsistent and poor corner in 2016. So you decide what Bashaud Breeland you're going to get by playing him in certain looks. You play him 7-10 yards off the ball, you're going to get a guy that's going to get beat consistently. You allow him to get in the face of the receiver because he's a dog. He's a dog. He's competitive, and he wants to play against the other team's best receiver. He wants to travel. He wants to be that guy. So if you allow him to get in the face of a receiver and get his hands on him at the line of scrimmage, he's going to play ball for you. You got a hell of a deal. DJ says, what do you think of the star signing for the Bills and the re-signing of Kyle Williams? I think it helps bolster a rush defense that was good, but at times was really shoddy. See the New Orleans Saints game last season. So This Bills defense up front needed to be revamped. They were soft in the middle at times last season. Starr's going to come in and immediately give you a huge boost in stopping the run. Off the bus, this man immediately comes in, and you're going to stop the run a ton better with Star Lotulelei in that lineup. Kyle Williams is, to me, the quintessential Bill. Glad to see he's going to finish up his career in Buffalo the way that he should. And I was happy to see him finally make the playoffs with this Bills organization. And I like the fact that he's back. And both of those guys together in the middle of this defense going to do some really good things for the Bills defensively. And they needed that. They needed a guy like Starr to come in there and help bolster and fortify the interior of that defense. Clean Senpai says, people are sleeping on Morgan Burnett. He's still a quality starting safety. I think whomever gets him can get a steal. Hopefully it's my Panthers. I agree with you. If you go to my list on LouieTNetwork.net of the 23 top free agents, Morgan Burnett is on that list. I think a lot of people are sleeping on Morgan Burnett. Quality safety, has been throughout his career, has done nothing but be good for the Green Bay Packers. And I think, like you said, I actually think he'd be an upgrade over Kirk Coleman. And that's a perfect landing destination for him in Carolina, to be honest with you. And we'll see what Marty decides to do in Carolina, because that would be a great addition to your football team. A veteran that knows the ropes, that could come in, help some of those younger corners, but also be a little bit of a field general back there and still make plays, which is what he's done throughout the course of his career. Craig Smith says, Telesco fills holes in free agency with quality players on cap-friendly contracts, then goes after his coaches, guys in the draft. I love his style. I told you, I'm a Tom Telesco guy. I'm a Tommy T dude. And he's done some good things in Los Angeles with the Chargers. Now you're just looking for it to pay off in the form of wins. If you can get that to happen, look out for the Chargers. Matthew Lynch says, seems like the Skins want DRC. What do you think? I think they do, and I think ultimately if both sides can agree on a number that makes sense, he'll be in Washington. I think he wants to stay on the East Coast. I think he wants to stay in the division, and I think the Redskins are looking for a veteran to come in and fill that role vacated by Bashad Breeland and by Kendall Fuller. So I think DRC might be a guy that fits that for the Redskins. So we will see. Clean Senpai says, do you think the Panthers should draft someone like DJ Moore or Ridley get someone like Jordy Nelson and use our first round pick on something else? If I were the Panthers, depending on how much Jordy Nelson costs, I'd really look into Jordy Nelson. He fits the Carolina Panthers. To me, he could fill that role in 2015 that you had Jericho Cotchery fill. And I think he'd be a better version of Jericho Cotchery. Guy that can win, get open, and short-handed, catch the football, move the sticks, come up with big catches when you need them on third downs. That's Jordy Nelson, and that's the role he could fill for you, and still draft DJ Moore. Imagine that. Okay, imagine DJ Moore, Jordy Nelson, Devin Funchess, and Curtis Samuel, who you still really don't know what the hell he is or how to utilize him on your football team. Imagine all of those guys coming back along with Christian McCaffrey. Could you imagine how explosive that Panthers offense and Torrey Smith? Now, again, you're not going to do both. You're going to do one or the other. You're either going to go out and get Jordy Nelson and then attack the draft elsewhere, or you're going to go out in the draft and get a guy like DJ Moore. Calvin Ridley will be long gone by the time you hit the board. And trust me, DJ Moore would fit your team better than Calvin Ridley. But in any event, you're not going to do both. You're either going to do one or the other. In any event, I think both options would be really good for the Panthers. Either way, it's an upgrade over what you had available for Cam Newton a season ago. So I would prefer you to go the young route personally. But Jordy Nelson can still play ball. He's still got some football left in him. And I'm anxious to see where he ends up because he can help a team. Gary Schopel says, Case Keenum seems like a bridge quarterback for the Broncos. I think they are looking to draft a guy early. Thoughts? So we're going to find out what the mindset is of John Elway, because when they made the Case Keenum move, and again, we don't know the length of the deal, and I think that's important to keep in mind, because if he signs a 4-year deal, then I don't think they're going to draft a guy, and I think they might even trade back in the 2018 NFL draft. But if he signs a 1 or a 2-year deal, or maybe even a 3-year deal, where the Broncos can get out after 2 years, then I think they're still looking for a quarterback, a young quarterback on that football team. So I'll be interested to see what the deal is first. That will tell me a lot about how they feel about Case Keenum. If he signs a 4-year, let's say a 4-year, $84 million deal, okay, 21 per, I think they may bypass the quarterback position. They may think that Case Keenum is their guy. But if he signs a 3-year, let's call it a 3-year, $62 million deal. Let's call it 3 years, $63 million. With the option for the Broncos to get out after 2. And then, yeah, I think they're still looking for a quarterback. So the length of the contract, how much money they give up will tell me a lot about how they feel about Case Keenum and, more importantly, how they feel about the quarterback position overall. I like you, feel like he's a bridge quarterback. I don't think he's a guy that you're looking to have on your roster long-term per se. And again, in this league, what is really long-term? Okay, 3 years is a long time in this league. So remember, NFL stands for not for long. So we'll see. But I like you think he's a bridge and that the Denver Broncos are still interested in attacking the quarterback position. Now, if they get a deal for someone to come up and take that 5th overall pick off their hands, then I don't think they'll hesitate to move back, pick up some draft capital, and still get a good football player in the draft. We'll see. We've heard rumors already of the Bills still potentially wanting to move up. I don't think the Broncos would be too disappointed if they move back to 12. Picked up a ton of picks. 2 picks in the first round and probably still another pick, maybe in the 3rd or the 4th or the 5th. I don't think they would be too bad off making that move. So we'll see what happens. Sammer L.D. says, hey, Louie, the Ravens just signed Ryan Grant, and most Raven fans are understandably upset by it since we paid him so much. Could you tell us about him? I assume you know him well. All right, Sammer. So here we go. Ryan Grant is the definition of an average wide receiver. Now, I say that in the nicest way possible because he does everything good. He's how I describe a player. When I say someone is Pan Mom or Pam Mom, which is proficient at many, master of none. Okay? So when I say someone is Pam Mom, that's what they are. And to me, he's the definition of Pam Mom. Master of none, proficient at many, master of none. He has no discernible traits. He's not fast. He's not tall. He can't jump really high. His hands are good, okay? But he'll have the occasional concentration lapse. He runs really good routes, but sometimes he'll run them short of the sticks. He'll block in the run game. He'll do everything you ask him to do. He'll do the dirty work. He'll do the little things. He sometimes doesn't pay attention to detail, but he's a good football player. If you're looking for a good football player, Ryan Grant is a good football player. And for the Ravens, he'll give you something you lacked, a consistent target. If Joe Flacco throws him the football on 3rd and 5, he'll catch the football on 3rd and 5. Now, will it be for 5 yards? Maybe. It might be for 4.5. We've seen him do that before. But you throw it to him, he generally catches it. Okay? He can win on certain routes, but he's not going to beat anybody over the top. He's not going to win big. If he does separate, it won't be by much. But if you have to force it to him in tight quarters, he can still make a catch on a contested ball. He's tough. He'll go over the middle. He'll catch the football in traffic. He's not afraid to take a shot. He's not afraid to give a shot. He'll come down. He'll dig out a safety in a run game. He'll do all the dirty things, like I said. He's a good addition to your team, but he's a 3rd option at best. So if you're the Baltimore Ravens, keep in mind that you're still going to need to surround him with other receivers Ryan Grant is not the guy you're looking for to be a number one or a number two option for that matter. But again, you don't have anything in Baltimore, so he gives you something, okay? He's an upgrade over just about everything you had on your roster last year, which isn't saying much, but again, it's a place to start, okay? He's a foundation for what you need to start building at the receiver position. You need to draft a receiver, and you could use a guy like Jordy Nelson, okay? Jordy Nelson would be great because Jordy could be your number two, and then you could go out and draft a number one. Again, DJ Moore for me would be the guy. Calvin Ridley would be a guy for you to take if you're Baltimore. You get Nelson, and you added already, you already added, Ryan Grant. You go get Jordy Nelson, and you add a Ridley or a DJ Moore, and all of a sudden, your wide receiver group is among the best in the league just off of those three moves. So, again, I think this is where you start. You're not done at receiver. This is where you started. It's a nice start. Yeah, you paid him a little bit more than we thought he was going to get, but it's all good, man. He's a good football player. So, Ed says, this free agency has been wild. They're always wild. This one started a little sooner, that's all. The Cubone says, first agenda for the Rams should be to extend Donald. I don't want another holdout. I don't know what they're waiting on. They need to make that happen ASAP. And I know he wants a ton of money, and they probably don't want to give him as much as he's asking for, but he's the best in the league at his position. He should be paid as such. They need to get that done. I agree with you, Cubone. Mason Sykes says, where do you see Jordy Nelson ending up? I just threw out Baltimore as a great place for him. Carolina is another spot that I think would be an awesome destination for Jordy Nelson. You look around the league, there are a number of teams. I don't know if teams are done releasing players yet. I mean, Denver could release Emmanuel Sanders. I don't know if that's going to happen or not. I think they want to keep both of their receivers. They opted back in on Demaryius Thomas, so he's not going anywhere. But you could see Dallas part ways with Dez Bryant, which could end up being a landing destination for Jordy Nelson. There are a ton of places that he could end up, a ton of teams that could use wide receiver help. There's always a place for a veteran like Jordy Nelson that can get open and catch the football. And so, to me, the first place that jumps off the screen at me is Baltimore. I think they are the most receiver-needy team in the league, and so that's where I would start. Carolina is also an intriguing place. I know they got Torrey Smith. They still need more help at receiver. So that's another place. As you look around the league, I'm trying to think of another spot where, a guy like Jordy Nelson could fit. I mean, New England lost a ton of receivers, or they could potentially lose some more receivers. He seems like a New England Patriot, a veteran that they would bring in at this stage of his career. So we'll see. Buffalo could use a receiver like Jordy Nelson. All right, they're not great at the receiver position. They were one of the worst receiving groups last year, along with the Bears. But the Bears have already attacked the receiver position, going out and getting Taylor Gabriel and most notably Allen Robinson. So I think the top three teams would be Ravens, Bills, Panthers. All destinations, and again, time will tell, but there may be other places where Jordy Nelson's services may be warranted as free agency continues to press on. Sammy Watkins' deal is nuts to me. Look, Samuel Watkins, I think, has the potential to be a big-time receiver if he can stay healthy and get more targets. And look, Patrick Mahomes is going to let it fly. And if he is able to do some of the things we saw him do. I keep referencing the San Francisco game on a Thursday night where he tore the 49ers a new asshole. He's still got good football left in him. And he's still young. And I think people were kind of jaded by the injuries and some of the lack of targets in Los Angeles. But the guy's still good. And it didn't shock me that he got a big deal. I thought Allen Robinson's deal, granted, he's coming out off of an ACL, but I thought Allen Robinson's deal would still be more than his. But they're pretty comparable. Sammy got, $6 million more, $2 million more per year, but they're right in that same range in terms of Allen Robinson and Samuel Watkins. So the deal didn't surprise me as much, but I know a lot of people weren't expecting him to make that kind of money. You got to remember, he's a former first-round pick, and the guy's got talent, elite talent, okay, elite skill set, elite traits, and when he's right, he's a really good receiver and one of the better ones in the league. So it was a lot of money, but it didn't shock me. A lot of people were shocked. I don't understand why. Ed says, what do you think about the Chicago Bears signing? Let's talk about the Bears because they had a really active day. So let me go to my list because they did a lot today. So looking at the Bears, they signed Allen Robinson. Let's start there. Allen Robinson's signing was major. Now, again, that's not finalized yet. That's pending a physical. He passes that physical, 3 years, $42 million for a bona fide number one receiver in this league. I love the move. They went out and they were aggressive in getting Mitchell Trubisky some options and some targets. You want to have your young quarterback succeed, you need to get him guys to throw the football to. And Allen Robinson, adding a guy like Taylor Gabriel to stretch the defense, because Robinson, albeit a bona fide number one, doesn't strike fear into the heart of the defense from a speed perspective. Taylor Gabriel will do that. He will open up the defense. He will get open deep. And so now you've got guys that can attack the field at all three levels. Then you add in a Trey Burton at the tight end position, who I thought was really underrated. And the Eagles fans know what Trey Burton was to them, but they knew they couldn't afford to keep him. And you add him on a 4-year deal. Love what he brings to the table. I think the Deion Sims signing last year was a little bit of a miss. Now you add in Trey Burton, who is a pure pass-catching tight end, to the mix with Adam Shaheen, and all of a sudden now you got two good tight ends. You got you got some legit receivers, because you're going to have – can Kevin White please stay healthy? Please stay healthy. We're dying to see what this guy can be. You add in Cameron Meredith, and now you add in Taylor Gabriel, and now all of a sudden there's a ton of weapons to go around, not to mention Tariq Cohen, and you still have the running game with Jordan Howard. So it's starting to shape up in Chicago. Really like what they're doing. Ryan Pace starting to win me over with some of these moves. We'll see if these young draft picks start to pan out. A lot of guys got playing time last year as young football players, and then we're getting another draft coming up. I like what the Bears have done thus far in free agency, really bolstering the offense and giving Mitchell Trubisky some targets to throw the football to. Andrew Kim says, what are your thoughts on the Ravens signing 2 receivers in John Brown and Ryan Grant? Not sure about Grant and his contract, $4 million, $29 million. So let's talk about that, because that must be new news. And let me pull out my phone because slacking. If we got a John Brown signing in Baltimore. Was not aware of that move, so let's peruse. So Jonathan Stewart's deal, and I'm going to get to your comment in a second, Andrew Kim. Just want to clean up some things. So Jonathan Stewart ends up signing a 2-year deal worth $6.9 million. And it's a base of $2.95 million. So it's 2.95 is guaranteed, and with incentives, the deal can be worth up to $8.4 million. So that was a little bit more money than I thought he was going to get, actually. So good for him. So Deion Lewis's deal. So some of the numbers are starting to come out. Deion Lewis's deal with the Titans is $4 million, 4 years, $20 million with another 3 in incentives. That's a really good deal to go get Deion Lewis. 5 years or $5 million per. And again, I told you the incentives need to be a big part of the deal because he's dealt with injuries in the past. So really think that that's a really good deal for both parties involved. Deion Lewis getting 5 per, and also an extra 3 if he can stay healthy and hit some of those benchmarks that the Titans have set for him. Jordy Nelson will visit the Raiders on Wednesday. That's another potential landing destination for Jordy Nelson. Add the Raiders to the list. And I told you, Reggie McKenzie is always one that will kind of wait till the market settles and then come out and open up the wallet. Even though he usually has a ton of money, he likes to wait. And so Jordy Nelson may be a guy that can earn a little bit of money out in the Bay Area as a secondary receiver in this market. Let's keep going. And I ain't forget about you. I'm coming back to your comment, AK. See if we missed anything else. All right, so John Brown is a Raven. And I'm hearing that. All right, so update for Redskins fans. Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie has left Redskins Park without a deal. So that may not be a situation that works out. Generally, if you like a guy and you're going to sign him and he's at your building all day, generally you get something done in principle. And that didn't happen. And so I don't know if DRC is going to end up being in Washington. That's something to keep an eye out on. See. So let me read this. Josina Anderson, who works for ESPN, who's been doing a great job of breaking stories for free agency, says she just got off the phone with Bashaud Breeland. He told me he intends to sign a 3-year deal with the Panthers because he's looking forward to going home and having a change of scenery and stepping into that leader role. So I kind of referenced that. That deal smelt and felt like a hometown discount, like I just want to go home. And sometimes there's no place like home. So that's a great move for the Panthers. That's a really good deal that they were able to get him on too. Here's another Jordy Nelson update. Jordy Nelson already generating interest. Patriots, Raiders, Ravens, Seahawks, and Niners all to make a push. And the Ravens are very interested. So three of the teams we talked about. I talked about the Patriots being a team that I could see him going to. I talked about the Ravens. Now, the Raiders, we just mentioned them a little bit a little while ago. And the Seahawks and 49ers. Remember, Seahawks just lost Paul Richardson. Seahawks and 49ers also a couple of teams that are interested. So he's not going to last long. I expect him to find work very quickly. So let's continue on and see if anything else has happened. Let's see if we can get some more numbers. Orlando Scandrick has requested that the Cowboys release him, so that's something to keep an eye on. The Broncos are fielding offers for Trevor Siemian, which, again, who the hell cares? But someone's going to do something. Let's see. So 4 hours ago, let me see. I want to make sure we got the timeline right. John Kime said that Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie left the building. Let's see how long ago that was. Okay. I know he went out to dinner. So if the timeline is correct, he left Redskins Park, but he went out to dinner with the coaches in D.C. So just keep your eye out for that one. Keep your eye out for that one. That's a intriguing development there. All right. Let's see. So I'm trying to see. I don't think the deal has been announced for John Brown in Baltimore. But in any event, those are your updates. Let's get back to the comments. And I like John Brown a lot. He stretches the field, something the Ravens haven't really been able to do. You thought that you were going to get that out of Bashad Perryman. He hasn't been able to stay healthy, and when he is healthy, that 4.27 speed everybody went goo goo gaga over at his pro day never really has come to fruition in the league. So I told you want to be able to attack all three levels of the football field: short, intermediate, and deep. Ryan Grant is going to allow you to attack the short to intermediate game. Still need another receiver, if you ask me. Jordy Nelson would be a great addition, or via the draft. But John Brown gives you the ability to stretch the defense. Joe Flacco throws a beautiful deep ball, and you want to be able to utilize that big arm that he has. John Brown will allow you to do that again. The key to John Brown is staying healthy again. That's another deal that I'm interested to see, and I want to see if and Ozzie Newsome's a smart guy. I expect that to be a very big incentive-laden deal where he has to play a certain amount of snaps, percentage of snaps, play in a certain amount of games, and make a certain amount of catches in order to earn certain bonuses that will then kick in and help him meet and maximize the full potential of his deal. But John Brown is a really capable receiver in this league, and when he's at his best, we've seen him make big plays in Arizona. He has that capability, and so I think the Ravens have added two receivers that have two totally different skill sets at two totally different ends of the spectrum in terms of their skill set and what they bring to the table, but nonetheless two guys that upgrade their offensive weaponry tremendously and give them something at the receiver position that they lacked last year. One in Ryan Grant, who is going to play in every game, does not get injured, and gives you bona fide hands. And John Brown, a guy that is one of the fastest receivers in the league, that brings you speed at the highest level imaginable. So was the Grant deal for a little bit of money? Yeah, sure it was. But again, it wasn't outrageous. It's not like you're paying this man $10 million a year, okay? Is 7.25 a lot? Yeah, it is for Ryan Grant. But when you don't have any receivers, you got to pay for receivers. That's how it goes. KT the Southern Gent says, hey, yo, all is well. I'm looking at all the signings, and I'm shaking my head because, once again, my team paid Drew Brees, and it looks like we'll be signing bargain bin players. That's how it goes, man. I mean, you got to continue to draft well. You had one of the best drafts in all of football last year. Continue to draft well. If you're Mickey Loomis and company, just keep drafting well. You don't have any money. You know that the money is tight in New Orleans. So keep drafting well. Have your little Kirk Coleman deals that allow you to do a little something. And that's pretty much all you can ask for if you are the New Orleans Saints. If it's not broken, don't fix it. You were one play away from the NFC Championship game a season ago. Sign Drew Brees back. And like you said, sign a couple of bargain basement deals, a couple of guys on the clearance rack, and keep it moving. And draft well again. That's how you stay good. Not through free agency, through the draft. Blackbird Blitz said, okay, again, if you are new to the channel, first and foremost, subscribe to the channel. Check out the website, louistnetwork.net. Also, use the hashtag LouisTLive if you want your comment read. Like the video, share the video, and also, if you're shopping on Amazon, okay, use my link, whether on the site or down below in the description of this and every single video I do. Click on one of those one of those Amazon links and make your purchase that way. Help a brother out. So, Super Bowl 52 champ says, how do you see Trey Burton fitting with the Bears? Talked about that earlier, but what he does is he gives Mitchell Trubisky a weapon at the tight end position that they haven't had in Chicago really since they traded away, and Mike Martz, you can blame for that, came in and traded away Greg Olsen. They haven't had a legit threat at the tight end position since Greg Olsen. And so they've been looking for a guy to come in and really do damage at the tight end position. And you could argue Zach Miller has had some flashes, but they haven't had a true difference-making tight end. And Trey Burton's going to give them a guy that can separate from defenders, can win, and give them the ability to stretch the field vertically at the tight end position. Adam Shaheen is a big target, but he's not running by anybody. He's just a big, inviting target. Trey Burton is going to be the yin to his yang, and I think they are going to make beautiful music together in two tight end sets. You can split them out, get some mismatches. Trey Burton can win. I think he brings a lot to the table for Mitchell Trubisky and that Chicago Bears defense. And again, like we've seen with him in the past, you can even run some trick stuff with Trey Burton as well. Jeff P says, if we end up, whoa, Jeff P. Appreciate the super chat, Skull Candy Man. Good looking out. Jeff P says, if we end up signing a defensive tackle at free agency, do you see us drafting Payne or Vita Vea at 13, assuming Edmonds, Roquan Smith, and Derwin James are gone? I can tell you right now, Roquan Smith and Tremaine Edmonds are both going to be gone by 13. Now, Derwin James may be there. He may not be there. That remains to be seen. If we sign a defensive tackle in free agency, does that rule us out of Payne or Vita Vea? No, it doesn't. Now, if we sign Dontari Poe, does it make it, and again, how long is that deal for Dontari Poe? Is it another 1-year prove-it deal, or is it a long-term deal? If you sign Dontari Poe, it makes it less likely that you draft a Vita Vea. But Dontari Poe and Payne aren't the same player. They don't do the same thing. Vita Vea and Dontari Poe are more along the lines of the same player. They do much of the same thing. So that, you know, a guy like Poe may cancel out Vita Vea, but if you sign, say, Sheldon Richardson, he's not the same player as Vita Vea. So that doesn't necessarily change your mind on him, but it may change your mind on a guy like Payne, who is similar to Sheldon Richardson. Richardson is, to me, more talented than Daron Payne, but nonetheless, it may change your thought process there. But again, at 13, best player available. And if that's another defensive lineman, you can never have enough defensive linemen. You can never have enough pass rushers. You can never have enough corners. You can never have enough defensive players. So I don't know if that would take the Redskins out of that market, honestly speaking. John Niner says, disappointed so far in free agency in my Niners, getting old Sherman coming off an injury. Again, don't be disappointed in the Niners because you haven't gotten anything going yet. Again, free agency is more than just a day. And as my man Rodney brought up earlier, there's more than one way to improve your roster. And free agency, draft, obviously, is the best way to go about it. And then you have post-draft. So relax. All right. Skull Candy. Oh, D. Wright says, who do you think the Browns can get in free agency to fill the defensive tackle position? Well, they signed a defensive lineman today, but he's more of a 5-tech, more of a defensive end or a 3-tech, or I should say a base 4-3 defensive end in Greg Williams' defense. If you're looking for a true defensive tackle, there are some guys available, but I don't know if they're going to attack that position or not via free agency. I see the Browns kind of laying low in free agency. They've done all the moves that I think they're going to do. They may be one or two low-level moves, low-risk moves that they look to complete in free agency. But they've made all their splashes for free agency. They've got a ton of draft capital. They're going to have to spend money, obviously. Jarvis Landry is going to get a big deal. Tyrod Taylor may get some more money, and they may decide to redo his deal. And so you've got to assume that they want to kind of gauge the rest of the market, see what's out there, but more importantly, take care of their own stuff. And then they'll reassess their situation. And if there are some players out there available that they feel like can help them, then maybe they go and attack and address those needs at that time. But to me, you've got all the draft capital you could ask for. You can move up. You can move back in the draft if you like. And so get young, cheap options if you're the Browns. Why spend a ton of money? You got a ton of talent everywhere. This team is dripping and oozing with talent, if you ask me. They were just missing a quarterback. And now they're going to get a running back in Barkley, I believe. I think you got a quarterback, and you can still draft a quarterback at 4 if you don't trade out of the spot. You could go in a different direction and still address quarterback in the second round. There are so many options available to the Browns. You could trade back into the first round if you like, package up some picks, and come back into the first round. If you feel like a quarterback is falling at your like, and say Lamar Jackson, because if you got Tyrod, to me, Lamar Jackson is the maturation from Tyrod Taylor. He's the next step up. So if Tyrod Taylor is your bridge quarterback, he would be a perfect bridge to, say, a Lamar Jackson. So maybe you package up a few picks and come back into the first round to get Lamar Jackson if he's hanging around, say, at 20 or 21 or 19. So we'll see. Maybe you move back from 4 and into that Lamar Jackson wheelhouse at, say, 12 with the Bills, or maybe you move back to 14 or 15 and get into that range where it feels good to select Lamar Jackson and pick up more draft capital. Who's to say? But defensive tackle, that's something you can address in the draft. And I wouldn't want to go out and spend too much money on a free agent when you've got all the draft capital and you can get a cheaper option through the draft. Matthew123 says, do you have any idea why the Giants are signing Jonathan Stewart? Would they think that there was better options? Well, you got to remember, Dave Gettleman is the GM in Carolina, or in New York with the Giants, ex-Panthers general manager. So obviously, there's a connection there. And they're just looking to solidify that running back position. They're not going to get Saquon Barkley. I think they understand that because of the Browns situation. The Browns are going to draft Saquon Barkley. I think it's a foregone conclusion. So I think they understand they're going to miss out on Barkley. And so they got a ton of young backs. Maybe they think that Jonathan Stewart can come in and mentor some of those. Because remember, they spent a third or a fourth round pick on Wayne Gallman last year. You trying to tell me Wayne Gallman can't play and they've given up on him already? Maybe, maybe not. Again, Gettleman didn't draft him, so he inherited him. But you also got Paul Perkins, another young back. Maybe they feel like they need a veteran to come stabilize the position, and then these younger guys may be able to learn from Jonathan Stewart and then be better backs because of it. Or maybe they don't love the young backs. Gettleman didn't draft either one of those guys, and maybe they're looking to get a veteran, draft another back, and one of those two backs in Perkins and or Wayne Gallman may be hitting the streets in the offseason. We'll see. Amon Garg says, what do you think of the Chris Hubbard signing? Where did Chris Hubbard land? I missed that one. First of all, I thought that Chris Hubbard could get some big money at the tackle position. And I thought he was a really good replacement last year for the Steelers when they were dealing with the injuries to Marcus Gilbert. He stepped in beautifully. They didn't miss a beat. And I think that Chris Hubbard could be one of the steals of the tackle position in free agency. So I'd love to know where he ended up. So I'd love for somebody to give me that information. I'm going to go down to the bottom of the chat. And if somebody knows where he ended up, can you just tell me? Where he ended up in free agency. Because Chris Hubbard, to me, is a really good, potentially a really good starting tackle in this league. Let's see what we got. It says the Raiders are expected to release wide receiver Michael Crabtree if they get Jordy Nelson. So that could be a little domino effect there. And you guys check the site tonight or tomorrow. I will have my March Madness bracket tournament up. So if you guys want to join in on that, do it through my site, LouieTNetwork.net. And the winner of that tournament will be able to select the first, like I did last year. We'll have the second, not first, the second team in the draft wrap-up series. Because I want the first to be the person that wins the mock draft pool that we do every year. Dolphins to release linebacker Lawrence Timmons. Remember, that was a rocky situation last year. So that's not a surprise. All right. So nobody has answered me on, okay, he went to the Browns. Thank you. So let's talk about this then. Let's get back up to your comment. Chris Hubbard to the Browns. I heard that they were looking for some depth at tackle. They may still try to address it via the draft, but Joe Thomas has been tossing around the R word, and you know, anytime you get a guy starting, and he's going to be back, because if I think I know Joe Thomas, like I think I know him. Nobody wants to play for 8 years, never be good, never make the playoffs, and then finally be in a position to break through. You've been through all the ups and downs, and you've got a chance to see this thing through. He's not walking away from that opportunity. So I think he's going to be back, but you need to be able to have insurance and have some stability at the tackle position. Chris Hubbard is going to provide that for you, and I think he can play both left and right tackle, but he's more of a right tackle in this league, and I think he's going to come in, he's going to compete, and he's going to be a right tackle when it's all said and done, and I think he's a guy that could be a really good tackle in this league. I was really impressed with him with the Steelers last year, and we see this every year. You see teams in the division poach players away from other teams in the division, and a lot of people don't know who Chris Hubbard is and what he did for the Steelers last year, but if as a Browns fan, you have to know what he was able to do because he's in your division, and so I like the move. I like the move a lot for the Cleveland Browns. KT the Southern Gent says, what's left in free agency as far as receivers go? All right, so let me give you the list of receivers in free agency. Quickly, Jarvis Landry gone. Samuel Watkins gone. Allen Robinson gone. Paul Richardson gone. John Brown gone. Marquise Lee gone. Danny Amendola gone. Taylor Gabriel gone. Dante Moncrief gone. Jordan Matthews available. Albert Wilson gone. Mike Wallace available. Terrell Pryor available. Eric Decker available. Jerron Brown available. Jordy Nelson available. So that's basically what you have left. And if you're looking for the best of the rest, Terrell Pryor, Jordan Matthews, and Jordy Nelson are probably the best receivers left, even though I still think Eric Decker has some good football left in him. I like some of the things he did with the Titans last season. But as you can see, receiver, one of those positions that goes very quickly. Keep in mind, I gave you a list of receivers that I thought could be cap casualties on the podcast. If you haven't had a chance to check out my pod, check it out. Louie T Network podcast on Apple Podcasts, on Stitcher, on this website, LouieTNetwork.net. I told you Dennis Bryant, Randall Cobb, Jordy Nelson, Michael Crabtree, Alan Hearns, Brandon Marshall, Emmanuel Sanders, Demaryius Thomas, Torrey Smith, Jeremy Maclin, and Brandon LaFell could all be cap casualties. And as we've already seen, Nelson has bit the dust. Crabtree could find his way to the streets if Nelson is signed, as I just reported to you guys, with the Oakland Raiders. Excuse me. Torrey Smith has been traded. Jeremy Mackley has been released by the Ravens, so in effect, you could say he's a guy that's also available in free agency. And so Des Bryant's still up in the air as to whether he'll return in Dallas. So lot available still, but not a lot. When you take a look at it, not a lot left at the receiver position as that went very quickly. Buffalo pregame says, you were right about Kirk Cousins. He got paid. I thought so many QBs would be signed, would have limited his options. Still, I don't think he's worth $84 million. I'm sorry. A lot of people don't, but it's not about what he's worth. It's about what the market dictates. The quarterback position dictates that Sam Bradford, who can't stay healthy to save his life, gets $20 million next season from the Arizona Cardinals on a 2-year, $40 million deal. But the second year is optional for the Arizona Cardinals. But nonetheless, that's what the quarterback position demands. So Kirk got his money. KT, the Southern Gent, says, I wish my team would stop using bargain shopping to build a team. Hey, look, when you have high-priced items, you can't be upset when you can't afford other items. And so just continue to draft. Again, we've watched teams get good by avoiding free agency and just drafting well. How do you think Minnesota built their team? They didn't build it through a bunch of free agents. The Minnesota Vikings built the core of their team through the draft. Ask their general manager, Rick Spielman, how you do it in this league, and he'll tell you. You build through the draft with young football players. They're young, they're cheap, and it allows you to stay competitive for years to come because you're not over the cap and you can reinvest your money. Instead of going out and spending money on other teams' free agents, you can reinvest your money into your free agents when their deals are up. So that's how you want to do it. And every now and again, you peek your head in there and you go and steal a Linval Joseph. Every now and again, you reach in, you grab a Brett Favre, or you grab a Kirk Cousins out of free agency if you're the Minnesota Vikings. But for the most part, they draft and re-sign their own guys, and that's how you do it. Now, last year, they had to revamp the entire offensive line because it was bad. But generally speaking, they don't do much in free agency. They go out and draft players and revamp. Same with the Packers. Every year, the Packers do the same thing. They don't draft a ton of players. They keep it simple, stupid in Green Bay. And so you got to understand that it's not always about free agency. Free agency is fun. It's cute. It's nice. It's the nice new shiny toy, but the draft is more important because you're not spending as much money. Now, again, free agency should be used to supplement your roster, not to build it. So that's what you got to understand. You don't build your roster through free agency. That's how you become bad because whether you realize this or not, generally, in every free agency, out of the hundreds of guys that switch teams, only a good 20 to 25 of them actually pan out for their new team. So, again, you don't build your team through free agency. You supplement your roster through free agency. Jose Martin says, how do you feel about Richardson coming to the Skins and DRC almost signing a deal? Nothing has been confirmed yet. So, we got to stay. I'm going to keep my ear to the streets, though, in terms of what is going on and what kind of deals are being made. Because, as I said earlier, deals are going to keep coming. And I want to try to keep us as close to up to date on everything that's happening as I possibly can. So I'm about to open up my Bleacher Report app. And see if we can't get some information. Pull out my other device and see if anything else has happened. Don't really see anything. So we'll keep it moving. And see what you guys have to say. Garrett May says, Titans are for real, huh? Yeah, I mean, last year's win in the playoffs, new coaching staff. You want to see how that goes. Do they regress? Do they pick up where they left off a season ago? But the Titans need to be taken seriously. They definitely need to be taken seriously. So I want to see how they continue to build this team. It's not a surprise that you get Vrabel that comes in and immediately they sign 2 ex-New England Patriot players. Not a surprise, not a shocker there. So I want to see how they continue to build that football team in Tennessee. David Johnson says, Colvin got a 4-year, $38 million deal. $18 million is guaranteed. So 9.5 mil, 18 guaranteed. That's a really good deal for the Texans. Again, I thought he was going to, and it's a really good deal for Colvin as well. I thought he was going to be in that $10 million range. So right underneath $10 million at 9.5. So that's a good deal for both parties involved, and you're getting one of the best slot corners in the league. I love the deal. Definitely love the deal. Big Jack KC25 says, what do you think about the Chiefs signing Watkins and Hitchens? Love the Watkins signing. I know a lot of people think it was a lot of money, but again, that's the rate of pay in this league. You want a big-time receiver, you're going to have to pay him. As far as Hitchens is concerned, I didn't understand why he wasn't getting more attention. Anthony Hitchens, and the thing that I said when I talked about him on my podcast was, why didn't he play, more in Dallas? Because when I saw him in Dallas, and I'm a Redskins fan, so I can speak firsthand to seeing a lot of Anthony Hitchens. When I saw him in Dallas, guy was flying all over the field. They would take him off the field on third downs. I don't think they trusted him as much in passing situations, but as a run defender, he was a dog. I mean, he would hunt, go after the football. He's going to make a great replacement for Derek Johnson in that capacity now. How does he fare as a pass defender? Remains to be seen. And if he can defend on all 3 downs, then he'll be worth every single penny of that $9 million. If he can't defend on third down, then you might have overpaid for Anthony Hitchens. So I want to see what he does, because the Cowboys, they didn't have him on the field on third downs a lot of the time. So I'm anxious to see what he does with this Chiefs football team. But the guy is a dog in the run game. And after watching the Titans carve you up in the second half of that game, your defense was old and slow. You need an infusion of athleticism, and Hitchens is going to do that and help you bolster that linebacking group that could use a shot in the arm. And I think Hitchens is going to help provide you with a little bit of that as well. David Johnson says, Muhammad Wilkerson went to the Packers. We talked about that earlier. KT the Southern Gent says, I don't want DJ Moore in Charlotte. Steve Smith senior nightmares all over again. Exactly. That's why I think if you're the Panthers, he would be a smart acquisition for you if available. John Niner says, Weston Richburg any good? Yes. He's a very good center. I think his best position is center, not guard, but he can give you some guard play if need be in a pinch. He can play both guard positions and center, but his best position is center. He's a really good athlete, does a really good job of getting out in front of screens and getting down the field. You can pull him. And in Kyle Shanahan's offense, when you need really athletic offensive linemen that can get to that reach block, that can get to the second level, can get to those combo blocks, he's a really good acquisition, is Weston Richburg. So, yes, he's a good football player, and he'll fit perfectly in Kyle Shanahan's offense. KT the Southern Gent says, Safarian Jenkins to New Orleans. Does it make sense? Yes, he's an athlete. See, we got an update. So we got some heat on Twitter. So Let's go to Twitter and see if any comments are made on Twitter. Let's see. I'm going to answer yours, and then we'll go to Twitter. KT the Southern Gent says, oh, I read the question. So Austin Seferian-Jenkins, ASJ, makes a ton of sense in New Orleans. Here's why. You need a big athletic target. Now, he's tantalizing. He can make all the plays on the football field. He offers you that Jimmy Graham type size that you've been really lacking at that position. Kobe Fleener has been inconsistent, but so is Austin Seferian-Jenkins. If you think he's going to come in and going to be light years improvement over Kobe Fleener, you're sadly mistaken. Is he a better athlete than Kobe Fleener? That's debatable. Is he a bigger target than Kobe Fleener? Yes. Can he make plays that Fleener can't make? Yes. But will he make those plays? Again, you don't know. Do I like him better than Kobe Fleener? Yes, I do. And so I would be willing to take a flyer on ASJ if I were the Saints. Again, low risk, low proposition deal. Shouldn't cost you a ton of money for a guy that is looking to establish himself in the league. Thought he did some good things with the Jets, but he didn't do enough. So I wouldn't have a problem with Austin Seferian-Jenkins and he's young at 25 years old. Still trying to put the pieces of his life back together. Remember, he had some off-the-field issues in Tampa, which forced him out of Tampa. I think he got a new lease on life in New York with the Jets. Like some of the things he did last year, I'd like to see him get an opportunity in a good offense, like New Orleans. So we'll see what happens. Skull Candy said that Richburg isn't good in the run, but he's good in the pass. It depends on what you're asking him to do. He's not a dog. He's not going to maul the guy in front of him. But he can get his hands on guys. I think for what the Giants asked him to do, first of all, the Giants' run game was a joke. They ran out of shotgun. They had the most gun runs of any team in the league. They didn't even have a real semblance of a run game. So it's hard to really criticize Weston Richburg in the run game with the Giants because they didn't run a real run scheme in New York. I think he's going to fit fine for what Kyle Shanahan asks his centers to do, which is be athletic, just like Alex Mack, just like Corey Lichtensteiger when he was in D.C. You look for smaller centers that can run, that can get out and get to the reach block, and I think Weston Richburg can do that. BA says Trent Murphy is trash second-round pick and in 4 years didn't bust a grape. Maybe true, but he got us, 8 sacks a couple of years ago before he got busted for PEDs and tore his ACL? I just wanted to see if that was legit or if that was just a fluke season. You spend a second-round pick on a dude, you'd like to see him evolve with your team. So I'd love to have seen Trent Murphy at least for one more year on a prove-it deal. And if he didn't prove it, then you let him go. If he does, then you pay him. Keep your stuff. But I don't know if he'll be back in D.C. or not. We'll see. At Checkmate21 says, what do you think is next for the Skins? I think they want to address corner. I think they want to address defensive line. Those are the two positions that I think they're out to address via free agency after addressing wide receiver. After that, I think they will be content on kind of letting the market settle. And if there's a really good bargain deal to be had on a guy that they like, that's going to cost them minimal dollars, then maybe you'll see them go back into free agency. But I think they're going to spend on a corner and a defensive lineman if possible, and then they'll start to turn their attention to the draft. And so, Nick Drowsy, I talked about Ryan Grant already, so just watch this on playback and you'll find out my thoughts on Ryan Grant and what he brings to the table for the Baltimore Ravens. Cloud says, how we got these dudes trading like crazy, especially players on their rookie deals. Copycat league indeed. How we trade coming tomorrow. It wouldn't shock me if they moved Nicholas Foles tomorrow. Wouldn't shock me at all. Craig Smith says, Chargers put a second-round tender on Tyrell Williams, and yeah, I'm worried. No one is going to steal Tyrell away from you for a second rounder. You're good. Even though Tyrell's got legit speed and can catch the football and be a dynamic playmaker, nobody's coming after your stuff, man. You shouldn't be worried. Tyrell is fine. That second rounder will be enough to scare teams away from Tyrell Williams. Jeff P. says, you're going to do the draft prospects breakdown. Love hearing you drop knowledge on those. Have you done your homework on Rashad Penny yet? LOL, might put him in his top 5 backs. I got 3 backs left to do, and he's one of the 3 backs. I've got Sony. Well, I got Sony. I got Rashad, and then I have Kalen Ballage to do. And then I'll be moving on to the receivers. So, yes. Those will be coming. And when they come, they're going to be coming rapid fire. I have not done Rashad Penny yet, though. Craig Smith says, love to tout you, but he couldn't stay healthy. Feels like he was never on the team. I feel you. That was one of the problems at Georgia Tech, was durability. But he's explosive. He's dynamic. I'm a Jerry Atauchu fan, and I think he's cheap. He's a guy that nobody knows anything about, and I would love the Redskins to take a flyer on him. He's not going to cost a ton. And again, another one of these deals that you can build in a bunch of incentives that if he's not able to stay healthy, he won't earn a ton of money. It wouldn't be any different than having Junior Gillette on these one-year deals. Go out and get a young, explosive player. Again, the Redskins don't have that kind of foresight. So I don't expect it to happen, but that's the kind of guy that I would like the Redskins to go out and get. Buffalo pregame says, I think Mayfield and Rosen are most pro-ready, like Jackson and Rudolph, but not enough to pick them. Darnold didn't look good this season, and Josh Allen is too inaccurate. Kevin Byard is the Tennessee Titans safety that I was referencing, and I agree with you. Mayfield and Rosen are the most pro-ready quarterbacks. I'm not a Darnold fan. I love Josh Allen. I think that's the guy that if I were the Bills, I would be targeting. Big arm, athleticism, everything you're looking for. But again, you mentioned the inaccuracies. We'll see. We'll see. SOL's Nation says, AP the Skins, how do you feel about splitting runs with Thompson and P. Ryan? No, I'm good. Again, I don't want an aging back. People ask me about DeMarco Murray. No, I don't want DeMarco Murray. No, I don't want Adrian Peterson. I don't want an aging back. I want a young thoroughbred, preferably in the second round. Okay? I do not want to go through the whole song and dance of trying to put a Band-Aid on a position that needs surgery. Go get me a young thoroughbred. Go get me a young back that can change the game, and then we'll have a complete backfield with P. Ryan and Thompson and the young back that you get in the second round. I don't want a third round back. We did that with Matt Jones. Who? Matt Jones. I don't want to do that again. We did that with P. Ryan. I don't want to do that again. I want a second round back. There are plenty to be had in this draft. Go get you one, and let's move on. Let's address that, and let's move on. Jay Orion says, what's going on with the Dolphins? Can you give me your opinion on their moves? So let's look at what the Dolphins did today. I know they signed 2 receivers. I want to make sure I'm not missing anything, but I know they signed Danny Amendola, and I know they also went out and signed Albert Wilson. So I'll give you my thoughts on that here in a second. Just want to make sure that nothing else the Dolphins did today slipped under the radar. And those are the only 2 that I have written down. Let's check and make sure that nothing else is taking place. The Titans are closing in on a multi-year deal to re-sign Josh Klein. So that's a good move for them. Keep him in-house. Let's see. Frank Gore to visit the Lions. It looks like the Lions are in the market for a veteran back. I've already heard rumors of DeMarco Murray in Detroit. Now we're hearing about Frank Gore visiting. So they're looking for a veteran back for sure. see if we can find anything else. All right. So I don't see anything else. So John Brown's deal with the Ravens, 1 year, $5 million with incentives that could get it up to 6.5. So, not a bad deal. It's a prove-it deal. And after the year he had with all the injuries last season, he'd be wise to take a prove-it deal because I think his talent is more than that 1 year, $5 million price tag would indicate. So I think that he should go out, try to stay healthy, ball out this year, and see if he can't hit the market again next year and get paid. All right. Sam Acho is expected to sign a 2-year deal with the Bears. Acho, man. Latavius Murray, this is not a surprise, is going to be asked to take a pay cut. Most likely, if he refuses, the team will release him. That's not a shock to me. I think they're going to draft a young back anyway. So they're going to get Dalvin Cook back. I think they're going to draft 1, possibly 2 young backs. And if he's not willing to take a pay cut, then we'll see what happens. But I had him on my list of running backs that could potentially be available this year. All right. So let's talk about the Dolphins. So the 2 moves they made, you get rid of Landry in the trade, and you replace him with 2 slot guys, essentially. Albert Wilson did play out wide at times, but he's primarily a slot guy. So is Danny Amendola, as if you're a Dolphins fan, you can attest to watching him with the New England Patriots over the last 4 or 5 seasons. In any event, Danny Amendola, even though he's age 32, you saw what he can do in the playoffs. They called him Danny Playoff, and he was balling. He can still get it done at a very high level, still can separate and win. And it doesn't matter who's your quarterback, whether it's Tannehill or you draft Baker Mayfield or some young quarterback or whomever's under center, Jay Cutler, it doesn't matter. You need guys that can win immediately in this league, in the slot. And the Dolphins have as many out wide targets as you can ask for. Obviously, they'd love to see Devontae Parker stay healthy, but he's got number 1 receiver written all over him if he can stay healthy. You still got Kenny Stills. I still like Leonte Carew. You've got stuff at receiver, but you don't have guys that can win immediately in the slot. None of those guys. Those are out wide wide receivers. You need guys that can win quickly, and I think Carew, or excuse me, I think both Amendola and Albert Wilson can win quickly, and you can do some things with Albert Wilson. I think he's a lot quicker and maybe even a little faster than Amendola is at age 32. So you can run those wide receiver screens and some things like that with Albert Wilson. And those guys will win, and they'll open up some things underneath for you. Neither one of those guys possesses elite speed, but Kenny Stills does bring that to the table. And so I think you're going to be fine. Again, it's all about being able to separate and have guys win at every level. And Amendola and Wilson are going to help you do that as well. But as far as the Dolphins are concerned, none of these moves really move the needle all that much. I do like the Amendola signing because, again, you need guys that can win in the slot. But I want to see how much he has left in the tank at age 32. I think he can still get it done at a high level. Hopefully his body is up to the task. But I think the Dolphins still have a lot of questions to address, none bigger than the quarterback position, obviously, for obvious reasons. I love the running back last year and what we saw out of him, the Kenyon Drake. But I think you could, and the other running back that was behind him out of Oklahoma, he's a free agent. The one that can catch the ball. Let me get to my free agents list. If I'm not mistaken, he's a free agent this year. And so I think you need to do something at running back. And like I said, preferably do it in the draft. But Damian Williams is his name. He's a free agent as well. So I think you got to do something at the running back position. So I'm anxious to see what happens there with the Dolphins. Jawan James is a name that I keep hearing in trade rumors. So I think they're going to end up doing something along the offensive line. But again, if I'm the Dolphins, all of those things are the draft. We hear Ndamukong Suh potentially being released. Then you're going to need to fill that void. And if you can't do it via the draft, you may need to do that in free agency. You may have to take a flyer. And again, if you're trying to change the culture of your football team, then getting rid of Suh for Sheldon Richardson isn't the way to go. Maybe Dontari Poe is more to what you need to be doing. But again, we'll see what you guys decide to do when it's all said and done. Jonathan Lynn says, do you know other players that the Redskins are interested in? No. Right now, the three guys that they had in the building or had interest in today, Paul Richardson, which they ended up reaching an agreement with, Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie at the cornerback position, and Muhammad Wilkerson, who ultimately ended up signing with the Green Bay Packers. So I haven't heard anything else after that. Skull Candy TV says, how do you feel about the chance that the Dolphins draft a quarterback? I don't think they're totally sold on Ryan Tannehill. So it wouldn't shock me, and I wouldn't be disappointed if they went that direction. Because I almost feel like the Dolphins are starting anew. Doesn't it feel like they're starting all over? I don't know about you, but you get rid of your best receiver. You get rid of your best running back. You get rid of one of your best, obviously your most highest paid player in Ndamukong Suh most likely. You're going to release Lawrence Timmons. We've heard culture change over and over and over again in Miami. And it just feels like they're trying to start over. So if you're starting over, why not get a new quarterback and just complete the whole cycle? So we'll see. Vincent Cole says, Titans signing everybody from the Patriots. Hey, once a Patriot, always a Patriot, man. Vrabel comes over and he knows how to call up Bill B and be like, hey, man, what you think about this dude? And, you know, he knows if they're coming from New England, they know the Patriot way. They know how to get it done. And they're going to know what's required of them, what's asked of them, and they're going to know that what they're going to need to do for the Titans. He's going to know that they already know how to get it done. So, Michael Thompson says, how good is Bashaud Breeland? Very good. And for the price you got him at, you should feel like you stole today. Vincent Cole says, do you want the Redskins to sign Jordy Nelson for cheap? He got cut today. Redskins aren't. First of all, Jordy Nelson isn't going to sign for cheap. And second of all, the Redskins, after signing Paul Richardson, aren't in the market for another receiver. And Jordy Nelson isn't interested in coming to Washington. I read off the list of names of teams that he was interested in that were interested in him. Patriots, Patriots, Raiders, Ravens, Seahawks, 49ers are all on his list. One of those teams is going to end up with Jordy Nelson before it's all said and done. BE says, what up, BE? Says the Cardinals could use a wide receiver. They could, but I don't know if they're really that I don't know if they're that bent out of shape to get a receiver. And when you think about it, they still got Larry Fitzgerald. Now, again, or maybe only be for one more year, but still got Larry Legend. Yeah, you lost John Brown. And Jerron Brown is also a free agent, who I really like. But you still have the young guy you drafted a couple years ago, JJ, you know who I'm talking about, JJ Nelson. You still have the young guy you drafted last year out of Grambling and Chad Williams. So you still got some stuff at receiver, and I think they're going to continue to add some pieces. And let's see who's left. Terrell Pryor would make sense out there. Jordan Matthews is looking for a new home. There's some guys out there, and again, there's always the draft. I don't love the crop of receivers in the draft, but it is a group that you can find some value in the second and third rounds, I think. After you get past the third round, I think if there's a run on receivers, you could be in no man's land come fourth, fifth round. Fourth might be as deep as you can go in this draft before it starts to get a little mucky and muddy and nasty with the receivers, but we'll see. Clean Senpai says, I don't think Torrey Smith is a number 2. Just think we got a bargain because I think teams would have overpaid for him on the market. I don't think teams would have overpaid for him. You're right, he's not a number 2. But I look at him as a Mike Wallace type. And both of them are right around the same age. No one's beating down Mike Wallace's door. And Mike Wallace, technically, from a production standpoint, probably had a better year than Torrey Smith did. Don't quote me on that. I can't confirm nor deny that. But I'm pretty sure if we compared the numbers, they're either really comparable or Mike Wallace had a better year than Torrey Smith did from a catches, yards, touchdown standpoint. Maybe not touchdowns, but from a catches and yards standpoint. In any event, they're both aging receivers that rely on speed, and they're both either at or above 30. I can tell you Mike Wallace is 31. I think Torrey Smith is right in that same ballpark, same neighborhood. I don't think anybody would have been beating down his door. He would have been one of those second-week free agents, just like Mike Wallace will be, or after the draft free agents. No one's going to be racing to get to Mike Wallace, and I don't think anybody would have been doing that for Torrey Smith either. But he helps save you from having to maybe spend more than what you have, which is what you said earlier. You know, it stops you from having to maybe invest a little bit more in a position than maybe you would have liked to have to invest. You see how much money guys are getting. So, the Mister says, we lost Taylor Gabriel. If we lost Taylor Gabriel yet, I know his ass trying to sneak out the back door. Oh, he gone. He went to Chicago, bro. Taylor Gabriel is gone. Reese says, I'm pissed, Lou. My Bucks are just sitting on their hands. Yeah, I'm happy with the break and Evans extensions, but I wish we'd do something. Again, it's not about when you do it. It's about who and for how much. And so we'll see. We'll see what the Bucks decide to do. Poopin' for Noopin says, my money is on Ryan Grant in terms of outproducing John Brown. If Brown stays healthy, I'd take that bet because I think John Brown's going to have a couple of explosive games. If Brown is not healthy, Ryan Grant, one thing he will do is play all 16 games. So if John Brown isn't healthy, Ryan Grant will be, and he'll outproduce him. K. Francis says, which safety is better fit for my Panthers? Eric Reed, Kenny Vaccaro, or Morgan Burnett? The best of that group is Eric Reed. The best fit, well, if you're the best fit for me. So Eric Reed would be number 1. But to me, Morgan Burnett seems like a Carolina Panther. He just gives off the impression, he exudes Carolina Panther qualities and traits. They love going veteran, whether it's Mike Adams or Kirk Coleman. We've seen them do that in the past. What's the guy from New Orleans with the salt and pepper hair that was there a couple of years ago? They love going veteran safety. Roman Harper. So Morgan Burnett would fit that, and he's still got a lot of good football left in him, does Burnett. But the best of that group is Eric Reed. He would be a tremendous upgrade, but he's going to cost you too. So we'll see. Captain Spartan says, Did you talk about the most important news tonight? Steelers have a dinner meeting with Jet. I cannot with you, Cap. Lorenzo Simpson says, with Cousins leaving Washington, do they receive a comp pick? If so, what round? Yes, they do. They receive a third round. So you get the highest compensation pick there is, which, you know, they first start handing out those compensatory picks after the third round has completed. So we'll get one of those first picks after the third round. So we get a third round compensatory pick for Kirk Cousins. And we may get more after seeing how many of our free agents left, and Breland and Grant and Trent Murphy may go. We may get even more compensatory picks. We'll see. John Perez says, sorry I'm out, took my lady out. What did I miss? You missed a ton, bruh. He also says, how do you feel about the Paul Richardson signing? I love it. As Redskins fans, I think that was the one guy we targeted before free agency got underway. We said we needed a receiver, we needed speed, and he was the guy that could satisfy all of our needs at the receiver position. They went out and they addressed it with the guy that we wanted, and so I'm excited about that. Captain Spartan 04 says, my gut feeling is Sue goes to Tampa. Yeah, I know it's bold, but I just feel that way. There are a number of teams that could use a tackle, a nose tackle like Ndamukong Suh. He's a better fit in a 4-3 defense, so he's going to go somewhere where they play a 4-3 base defensive look. Doug says, I'm really disappointed my Browns haven't talked to any big-name players. We also need corners bad. Again, that corner market was going to dry up quickly. And just because you want players doesn't mean they want you. And so Butler and Tremaine Johnson were going to be the first two off the board. They got big money. They both already have agreed to terms with teams. Let's go down the list of corners that are available quickly. Still left in free agency. Tremaine Johnson gone. Butler gone. Vontae Davis. I don't love him, but he's available. I think, or did he already sign with somebody? Did he go to Kansas City already? Don't quote me on that. Aaron Colvin, gone. Kyle Fuller got the transition tag, so gone. Patrick Robinson probably going to remain in Philadelphia. Mo Claiborne is a guy that could be intriguing for you in Cleveland. Rashawn Melvin is a guy that my man, I know, Sean Mack is really high on and wants the Browns to look into. E.J. Gaines, not a huge fan, but he's a guy that the Rams traded to the Bills. Really don't know what E.J. Gaines brings to the table. Nikel Roby-Coleman, Prince Amukamora, Nevin Lawson, Bashar Breeland gone, Dante Johnson, Ross Cockrell, Devin House, T.J. Carey. And I heard T.J. Carey is starting to get some interest. And Brent Grimes is still out there. And Brandon Carr, Sean Smith is going to prison for a year, so he's off the market. Aqib Talib, off the market. Marcus Cooper, William Gay, Adam Jones, Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie, all guys that I thought could be cut. Well, we've seen Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie already get cut, so we'll see what happens. But you can also address corner in the draft. You got plenty of draft capital. KT the Southern Gent says, when is your wide receiver draft prospects review podcast? I'm not doing a podcast on receivers, but I am doing a live stream on receivers on Thursday. In the draft room, live Thursday night. So that's when we'll talk wide receivers. If that's what you were referencing, I don't call that a podcast. My podcast is what I do, the Louie T Network podcast. It's all audio, no visuals. So that's every Wednesday. So a new episode will be out tomorrow. Thanks for the super chat, KC3182. What do you think of my Chiefs signing Sammy Watkins? I love the move. I think it gives you a bona fide number one target out there, even though I think that you already have one in shucks. What's my man name with all that goddamn speed? Deuces. Tyreek Hill. I think you already got a bona fide number one in Tyreek Hill, but Samuel Watkins will be the perfect complement to him because although I love Tyreek Hill and I've been so amazed at his progression as a receiver and how much he has grown at the receiver position since coming into the league. There's still limitations. He's still like 5'8". There's still limitations on what he can do. So enter Sammy Watkins. Samuel Watkins comes in, can run all of the routes on the route tree, can run the intermediate, can run the shallow crosses, and also can win big, deep. So he gives you the ability to stretch the defense, but also do the dirty work over the middle of the football field. Will open up the field for Travis Kelce, along with Tyreek Hill, obviously. And so you got better at the receiver position. He's a tremendous upgrade over anything you had last year outside of Tyreek Hill. Albert Wilson gone, who cares? You got Sammy Watkins. Just got to throw him the football. The Rams didn't throw it to him enough. But if he's healthy, you got yourself, it's crazy because you got yourself a number one. And you already had a number one. So what's better than one number one? Two number ones, as my man Tyreek Hill would say. Deuces. So, yeah. Love the move. Some people think you overpaid. I think you paid the going rate for a number one wide receiver. That's just me. You got to pay to play in this league. You paid for a number one, and if he stays healthy and you throw him the football, you'll get production out of that number one wide receiver, and he's very young. So there's a lot of tread left on those tires. BA says, what do you think of Taven Bryan? I still got more homework to do on him. You're talking about defensive tackle out of Florida. He looks the part, but I got homework to do on him. 1 year production, always a little nerve-wracking there, but we'll see what happens. John Perez says, would you rather have Ndamukong Suh or Muhammad Wilkerson as our big defensive free agent signing? Oh, you definitely went out with your woman tonight because Muhammad Wilkerson is off the market. He's in Green Bay. So Ndamukong Suh has not been released yet. Seems like it's imminent, but it hasn't been finalized yet. So we'll see what happens. But I don't think we're going to end up with either one of those guys. Suh really doesn't fit what we do. Soundwave says, what are your thoughts on the Tennessee Titans signing both Malcolm Butler and Deion Lewis? Vrabel seems to trust Belichick to take them off the market. Yeah, that's pretty much what that says to me is that those guys know the Patriot way, which is pretty much how he's going to go in because when you're a coach, you do what you saw somebody else do. You take a little bit of what you learned from your past coaching stops and you implement that and you put a little bit of your own flavor on it. What do you think Matt Patricia is going to do in Detroit? He's going to implement a lot of the things that made the Patriots successful in New England, and then he's going to put a little bit of his sauce on it. That's what Mike Vrabel's going to do. He learned, and all of those guys that he was working with in Houston, all of them came from New England. Bill O'Brien came from New England. Romeo Cornell came from New England. So they all know how the Patriot way works. And so he's going to go to Tennessee. He's going to implement a lot of those things that worked in New England. And he knows those two guys know how it works and what it's going to take for them to win. And he wants those two guys to show the rest of the guys on the Titans roster what it's going to take to win. Lead by example, and that's why you bring in a couple of guys like Deion Lewis and Malcolm Butler who were big-time producers for the Patriots last season. And in Butler's case, not his best body of work last year, but the guy can still play football. Armin God, okay, we talked about that already. Captain Spartan says, Teddy, I lost that comment. All right, so I'm seeing some stuff in the chat. Let me see what's going on. Let me follow up. Let me grab my phone and see if it is legit. All right. So let's go back up. I lost where I was. I know I was about to read my man's Captain Spartan's comment. All right. Let's go through and all right. So let's continue on. So Captain Spartan says, sadly, Teddy is going to the Jets. He's just going to sit behind Josh McCown and be a backup for whichever quarterback they draft at 6. You're wrong. You're wrong. They got Josh McCown back for another year to mentor. They're going to draft a quarterback, I think, still at 6. And Teddy Bridgewater is going to start the season, I believe. And they signed him on a 1-year deal because they want to see if he's back from the injury. I think that's why Teddy Bridgewater was an afterthought, because no one really knows what he's capable of. And he's coming off of a major injury, and he hasn't really played in 2 years. So no one was really willing to overspend on Teddy Bridgewater. So you get a 1-year prove-it deal. He's going to end up winning that job in New York with the Jets. He's going to play. How he plays is going to determine if he gets a new contract with the Jets, because just because the Jets draft a young quarterback doesn't mean he's going to play. Has Christian Hackenberg ever taken a snap for the Jets? He was a second-round pick. Is he even taking a snap for the Jets? I think we all know the answer to that. So no guarantees in New York. But I don't think Teddy Bridgewater is going to sit and ride the bench. I disagree with you. I think he's going to start when it's all said and done. He's got to stay healthy, but I think he's going to start. Let's continue on. Soundwave says, who do you think will sign Nate Solder? Boy will get paid with how bad free agency is. Left tackle free agency market is terrible. It's atrocious. I was hearing the Browns early on, and it ultimately may still be the Browns, but it'll be interesting to see where he ends up. The Browns signing Chris Hubbard makes me think that they're no longer in the market for Nate Solder. So we'll see what happens with that situation. Somebody's going to break him off, though. And I don't know. I don't know where he's going to end up. That's a good question. John Perez says, can you see the Redskins signing Jordan Nelson? Nah, I don't see that happening at all. Jonas McConan says, the Redskins got 4 years of service from Ryan Grant for a 6th-round pick and probably got a 4th or 5th-round comp. Wow. Captain Spartan he says, I was hoping Teddy would stay in Minnesota as a backup. He's done endless things with that Minnesota community. No. Teddy wants to play. And if he stays in Minnesota, he understood that he wasn't going to get that chance. The writing was on the wall last year. Reese says, I know there's still time, Lou, but guys are just flying off the board. This is what happens early in free agency, Ree. Guys fly off the board, and they get paid a ton of money. You see more overpaid players go off the board in the first couple of days, in the first week of free agency, than any other time in the NFL. And so if you don't have a ton of money, or if your general manager is just a little bit more cost effective and efficient, translation, frugal or cheap, then you're going to wait. Or as my man Craig Smith likes to say, you're a coupon king. So I don't see the Buccaneers being in a ton of trouble. We'll just see what they decide to do. All right. Corey Fitterman says, "What's good, fam? Just joining. Thoughts on Richardson signing with the Skins?" I talked about Paul Richardson signing. Catch it on the playback. But I love the move. Rodney Ray says, maybe Nelson to the Raiders could reunite Crabtree with Alex Smith. I don't know how to feel about that. It's just a thought. I don't think the Redskins would be in the market for another receiver. If they get another receiver, I think it'll be a young receiver. I don't think they're trying to pay another guy. You know, it probably paint Bruce Allen to come off the $40 million for P. Rich. I can't see them investing more into the position. Captain Spartan says, Chris Hubbard will be all right on his own. Our O-line coach helped him a lot. He's going to give up some sacks, but he'll bully some people in the run game. I like Chris Hubbard a lot. So I think that's a good get for the Browns. B says, your thoughts on the Cardinals working to restructure Tyrann Mathieu's contract to lower the 14.1 cap hit to keep him in Arizona. He wants to stay in Arizona. That's the thing. If he didn't want to stay in Arizona, he would have been on the market, and he would have got another big deal. So it's important for him to stay in Arizona, because if he wanted out, if he wanted to make more money, if he thought money was important, then he would have just said, no, I'm not restructuring my deal. They would have cut him, and then he would have been out here with all of this money. You see all this money that's flying around? You don't think he would have been in on this first day action? Oh, he would have got broken off. Huge deal. Massive deal. He would have went straight to the top of the safety food chain in the free agent market. But he wants to stay in Arizona. And so that speaks volumes as to his character, and also his mindset that Arizona believed in him and gave him a chance when a lot of teams scoffed at him, looked down their nose at him. They gave him a shot. When he tore his ACL twice, they stood by him. They gave him a long-term deal. And he's grateful for that. So I love the move, and I love his willingness to work with the team. Jason says, I'm scared because Aaron Rodgers' contract is now going to break the Packers because he's going to want more money than Cousins, and yes, I know he's worth it. Oh, he's going to get it. He's going to be the number one quarterback in the league in terms of pay. I think he's going to wait for Matt Ryan to get his deal and then become the highest paid player. If I'm Aaron Rodgers, that's what I do. I wait for Matt Ryan to get his deal because it's coming. And then after Matt Ryan gets his deal, then I smoke his deal. So, yeah, you don't have to pay for Aaron Rodgers. But you, like you said, you already know what time it is, and he's worth it. Armin Gog says, what is your favorite under-the-radar signing thus far? So let's look at the signings that have happened thus far in free agency. And I'll tell you which one that I like the most. Trey Burton to Chicago is a really good one. Really low-key. Not a lot of people talking about it, but that's a really good signing there. Aaron Colvin to the Texans is my favorite signing. There you have it. Love Aaron Colvin. I don't think enough people know what this guy is about, what he brings to the table. And he got a good deal. They got a good deal for them. It's a win-win for everybody, and he's a hell of a football player. So that's my favorite under-the-radar signing. Aaron Colvin going to the Texans. Mazer_12 says, Texans still hot on Nate Solder, which I like a lot. Right now is either Pats or Houston in the race. Maybe the Browns, depending on what Joe does. There you have it. Someone asked about Nate Solder, and I forgot all about the fact that they traded away Dwayne Brown last year. So they definitely are in need of a left tackle. So we will see what happens there. All right. Checking my phone for any updates. To see if anything happened. keep it moving though. See what else we got. Reese says, what can you tell me about EJ Gaines? The Bucks have interest in him. All right. Can y'all stop reporting fake news, please? I don't see anything reporting that Ndamukong Suh is a Redskin. Can y'all stop reporting fake news? Reese says, "What can you tell?" I can't tell you a lot about EJ Gaines. I'm not gonna sit here and try to act like I know a lot about EJ Gaines. I can tell you that he went to Missouri, was a pick of the Rams. They liked him early on in his career. He ended up starting, I want to say, in his rookie season. Did some good things with the Rams, and they traded him to Buffalo last year. I didn't hear anything about him in Buffalo. Tre'Davious White was playing ball. The two safeties played ball. I have no idea what EJ Gaines did in Buffalo. So I can't even tell you. All right. Raider Nation Highlight says, hey, bro, Jordy Nelson to Oakland would be underrated signing, and Suh would make the perfect Raider. I don't think Jordy Nelson would be an underrated signing because he's a big name. So that'd be a good signing for the Raiders, though, for sure. All right. Suh would fit in Oakland, believe it or not. That'd be a good spot for him. I don't know if John Gruden is going for any of his shenanigans, though. So that's the thing. But Suh's a good football player. I know if some people are down on Suh, don't think he is what he once was, he's still an impactful player. So we'll see what happens. Poopa Fanupin says, haha, DeMarco Murray, I'd rather go get Sean Alexander or Larry Johnson. Been there, done that, don't want to do that again. Let's see. Dre, I already talked about Ryan Grant. FBG Tony says, who are the 3 winners in free agency so far? It's early, but I love what the Bears have done. I love what the Jags have done, getting Norwell to improve that offensive line. Also re-signing one of their own in Marquise Lee. So, and they got Dante Moncrief in free agency as well. So, like the Jags, like the Bears, getting Allen Robinson, getting Taylor Gabriel, getting Trey Burton, all upgrading the weaponry at the disposal of young Mitchell Trubisky. And see, that's 2. Who would be a 3rd winner? And the Jets. I like the Jets. You get McCown back. You go out. You get Tremaine Johnson. Oh, and another one of my favorite signings. Someone asked me earlier what was my favorite signings. Another one of my favorite signings is the Jets getting Isaiah Crowell. That, to me, is a big-time signing there. That's a big signing because He's young. He's a really good back, and Todd Bowles wants to run the football in New York. And Isaiah Crowell didn't get enough touches. There's a ton of tread left on those tires. He was one of the few free agency backs that I thought was worth going out and getting. And so that's another it's another one that I really like. So Jets, Jags, Bears are my 3 winners thus far. FBG Tony says, do you think the Ravens overpaid for Ryan Grant's services? Maybe, but again, they didn't have anything. And when you don't have anything at the receiver position, when you don't have anything at any position, it makes you desperate. Desperate people pay more for things that you might be able to get for less. So while I do think they overpaid a little bit, it's not like they're paying them $10 million a year, you know, but $7 million basically for Ryan Grant. You felt like you could get him for $5 million, and they're paying $7 million. Okay, whatever, you know. But to answer your question, yeah, they probably overpaid slightly. Reese says, I heard the Patriots want Jordy Nelson. Nope. These damn Patriots just won't go away. I don't think he's going to end up there, but it would make sense for him to end up there. It seems like the type of place he would end up. John Perez wants to know if DRC is going to sign with the Redskins or what. I'm not sure. Hard to say. Last time we heard, he was out at dinner with the coaching staff. So appreciate that, man. All right. Reese says, Brent Grimes is back with the Bucs, Lou. He was contemplating retirement. We gave him 10 million reasons to come back. Yeah, I wasn't listing him as a corner that was available. I was listing him as a guy that could potentially be on the free agent market due to a cap casualty. But he was probably your best corner last year, which is not good for you. John Perez says, why are the Packers letting Jordy Nelson go? I don't think Rodgers is happy about it. Money. Okay, money. They brought in Jimmy Graham. They just gave a new contract to Devontae Adams last year. You're still paying Randall Cobb basically the same money you were paying Jordy Nelson. Nelson is older, dealt with some injuries, maybe not the same production that you once were getting out of him. Just felt like it was time to move on. Atlas says, yo, what up, Lou? I didn't even know you were streaming today. Hope all is good. Everything is good, man. That's why you should be following me on Twitter, because I announced earlier on Twitter that I would be doing this tonight or yesterday. Captain Spartan says, what's it going to take for the QB market to go back to normal, 12 to 18 million? That's dead, man. What it would take would be for about 6 million people to stop watching the NFL, stop supporting the NFL. The TV contracts to go away. That would bring a lot of people's pay down tremendously. But again, not gonna happen. Nashawn already talked about Paul Richardson. Just watch it on the playback. I'm excited, though. Just know I'm excited about the acquisition of Paul Richardson. Ouija HTTR says, I see something about Cousins expected to sign a fully guaranteed 3-year deal with the Vikings. I know I've been MIA. Yeah, bro. $84 million, all guaranteed, first contract in the NFL's history for a multi-year deal, all guaranteed money, all $84 million guaranteed, which is going to set the standard and bar for players to try to hit, to try to get their contracts fully guaranteed. Football is the only sport where contracts aren't fully guaranteed, and obviously we know why, but still, it's something for them to strive to attain to, and Cousins was the first one to hit that mark. Rodney Ray says, it was one Eagle fan with that fake news. Yeah, that's the thing. It's fake news, but then as a Redskin fan, you can't go and spread the propaganda. You can't just go off of what somebody say and not do the research yourself. So that's the thing that had me upset. I got a Redskin fan, and he's a good dude, man, but you can't be in the chat throwing that around and you can't confirm that, man. It's not how we do things around here. But in any event, that's going to do it for me tonight. We'll be back tomorrow. Tomorrow at around 7 p is what I'm going to try to start, because everything will be official. We'll have more deals to talk about, and we'll talk about some of the numbers will be finalized, and everything will start to become crystallized. More guys will come off the free agent market, and we'll have a lot to discuss then as well. So we'll be live again for official day one of free agency frenzy. And so I'm looking forward to that. Again, remember, new podcast coming out tomorrow, so check for that. And also keep checking the site. If you want to get into my NCAA bracket, check the site. I'll have all of that updated tomorrow with all the information. Click on the link. It'll take you straight there. Enter in. If you win, you'll be able to have your team be one of the first, the second to be exact, or third if you count the Redskins. But I don't usually count the Redskins in that situation. We'll have, you'll be up second in the draft, not draft prospects, but the draft wrap-up series. Your team will be up second in the draft wrap-up series. So, in any event, I'm your man, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Hey, remember, we're changing the game over here. One live feed at a time. Hopefully, I can get everything set up and get the green screen to work a little bit better. I've been playing and tinkering around with a lot of stuff. Got a new webcam. Got a lot of different things going around. Remember, if you're buying anything on Amazon, click on one of the links down below in the video and make your purchase through there. Thank you for all the super chats. Hopefully I was able to answer your questions and your comments, and see you guys tomorrow. Have a good one.